has begun. Alright, so last week we brought you some standard. This week we're giving you even more standard. So we got a little bit of some different decks, some upgraded decks. So Boros Aggro is going to be a slight differentiation on what we saw last week.
Not a ton. I didn't take a strong look at Ricky's list, but I mean we'll bring it up here in a minute to see exactly kind of the differences, how much we remember. It looks like it's a lot more white.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I liked the white leaning lists a lot more than the red leaning lists.
Yeah. So we have that going on. We have Teamer Lamp, no doubt. That is based off of the hottest new meme going around the internets.
Do you not know where this deck came from?
No, I know where it's coming from. I'm making a joke. Anyways, Teamer Lamp. It's a Teamer Ramp deck. You got some big end finishers. Nothing super duper exciting there. Well, actually, there is. You'll see. You'll see.
It's a very interesting deck list. I'm not all too sure on like how good it actually is. I mean, I think in the versus video he won, or Todd Stevens won with it, but that's like against one match.
Yeah. Then we have Green Black Midrange. This is just going to be a Golgari, as the title would suggest, more of a mid-range list.
I've been working on the list a lot. It's been the list that I've been doing the best with on Arena, and I know Arena's more of the casual side of like a bunch of testing, but for this first early part, it's been primarily where a lot of my standard games have been going, and the deck's been doing really well on there.
Yeah. Then we have Golgari Aggro. Despite these two decks sharing colors, they could not be more different. The Golgari Aggro is Golgari in air quotes, being as it's mostly just a mono green deck with a light splash of black for Assassin's Trophy and a couple sideboard cards. Just give you that little additional reach you need against Planeswalkers or random permanents.
I've played against the deck a lot on Arena, and as you would expect from a bunch of people playing an aggro deck online, no one knows how to play Assassin's Trophy correct, and they keep killing my 3-drop, and then it lets me win the game for free.
Yeah, it's great. Hopefully that won't be a thing that happens tonight. We have an upgraded version of Joe's Naya tokens deck. He's been working on that a lot on Arena and outside of Arena as well. So I see a couple different changes on it. From what I've heard, he's taken out some of the late game and tried to go more in for just an early kill.
I still feel like there's a couple discussions onto something else that might make that early kill more likely, but I'm interested to see how his changes work.
All right, and finally we're going to have a Firemind's Insight deck. This is just going to be blue-red spells with a lot of spells.
I actually, right before I left the house, was playing against a blue-red Insight deck on Arena, and I will tell you, Firemind's Insight kills a lot quicker than you think it does.
Oh no, the card seems really good, and I'm excited to see it do some work. Now, we are starting off with Boros Aggro, so we're just going to go and pull up the list, kind of see if we can figure out what exactly is different with this list.
No burn spells, or rather, the burn spells are on a split card, which is also a pump spell. If you want to go ahead and pull up Integrity Intervention, and I know most players will have to turn their head to go ahead and see it as we're pulling it up.
Oh god,
here.
wait, I don't know if this is going to work properly.
No, it should work properly because it's the way the image. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, it does work.
Fine.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, Integrity, the front side of Integrity Intervention, Boros Hybrid, instant, target creatures +2/+2 till end of turn. This is actually a very powerful effect when you start to think about cards that have the Mentor keyword. Being able to grow your Mentor creatures to be able to actually mentor on the creatures that are normally larger than them is extremely important. Also, being able to just make it to where blocks can be bad, deal extra damage. There's so many things that Integrity side of Integrity Intervention does.
Yeah.
And then the back side, it's throwback to one of my favorite standard legal cards, which is War Leader's Helix. I just thought that card was an extremely well put together standard card. And being able to staple slightly worse War Leader's Helix onto another card just makes it so incredible.
Slightly worse War Leader's Helix, much worse Lightning. I mean, yes, War Leader's much worse Lightning Helix. But the fact that it does have the additional effect stapled onto it does mean that it has more play to it than the other two cards. And it is going to be neat to see how dealing with just a pump effect in standard is. That's not something you usually see come up very often in standard environments.
No. I will tell you, from playing as all the Arena over the last week, I have not played around a lot of Integrities, and that just comes from the fact that I'm not used to having to play around giant growth effects. Yeah. And even playing all the Blossoming Defense magic that I have over the last 2 years, it's just not something that came up outside of trying to kill a creature. It wasn't used a lot to clear blockers.
Yeah. So, and aside from that, any other cards we found super mentionable? The deck obviously has some Path Metal synergy. It's a very strong card, but it's nothing new to these type of decks. And Tajik at this point,
He's insane.
He's insane.
He's just the best, in my opinion, one of the best cards that came out of the set.
Yeah.
After playing a lot with it, I think Doom Whisperer is the best card that came out of the set. But Taijik is pretty high up there. One card I'm surprised to see just 0 copies of in the whole deck is Experimental Frenzy. A 4-mana enchantment.
So I'm kind of up in the air about that one personally. I wouldn't be that excited about playing it, but I have seen a lot of people playing it, so...
It has been really good.
Okay.
And all the decks I've seen it. There were multiple decks. There were 4 of it in the main deck that 5-0'd.
Yeah, I saw the list that were running it. I'm not completely sold on it, but numbers do stand up at this point.
Every time it's come into play, it just wins the game.
Yeah.
That's what I've seen.
So, all right, looked at that enough. Next, we're going to go ahead and look at the Lamp deck.
Yep. I'm going to go ahead and pull up Michael's deck. And this one is kind of reminiscent to the Hour of Promise-esque decks that were kind of existent. They were really good on Magic Online, but never saw paper play. And there is just a lot to unpack here.
All right, so the deck, obviously, you have some high-end, but a lot of that can't be possible without your lower end. You have 4 Chromatic Lanterns, 4 Gift of Paradise, 4 the Root, Circulation Root, whatever, that one, and 4 Gilded Lotus. Gilded Lotus being a little less early game, a little bit more mid game, but you can theoretically cast that on turn 4 if you have one of your 8 3-drop ramp spells.
Yeah, being able to go Chromatic Lantern into Gilded Lotus into Palaka Worm, and while it's hilarious to say Palaka Worm in my constructed deck as a 4-of, this card is a house against some of the decks. Being able to replace itself when it dies, gain 7 life on the ETB, and just being a card that a lot of like the red decks can't really deal with once it's in play. Mono green, just like, what do they do?
Yeah. If they can't go wide around it, it's going to stop most of what they're doing. A 7 mana, 7/7 is in fact pretty good against most of the creatures in that deck. And then you also have some kind of what I would consider to be cuter finishers. You have 1 Niv Mizzet the Perrin, which is a new card. He seems really interesting in certain matchups.
I've actually played 0 games against this card.
Yeah.
And I've played a lot of games against Blue-Red X decks. It just hasn't been a card that I've really seen anywhere. I think that if this card's playable, it's in a weird Grixis Sarkhan shell.
Yeah. It feels like a card, if it's playable to me, it seems like it's going to be a sideboard playable card. It feels like one of those cards that could be very strong against control deck if they're not expecting it, being as it can't be countered and it has a really large body.
It is powerful, or at least at face value, it looks like it's very powerful. Getting the Nazahal effect on both players and also getting a ping each time is just extremely, extremely strong. The
main question becomes whether or not this card is better than Nazahal, seeing as Nazahal gets the draw off of Planeswalker spells as well as instants and sorceries. Also the fact that Nazahal can protect itself.
Yeah, also enchantments and artifacts, which is notable.
Enchantments and artifacts as well, yes. So it's a bit of a toss-up, which is better. I feel like Nezahal's still going to be slightly better in this card, and it's going to make it hard for this card to see some play while Nezahal's in standard rotation, but it wouldn't super surprise me if like it saw some play inside.
Outside of her playing 4 Chromatic Lanterns, it's really hilarious to see Nimizet in my 9 Forest deck.
Yeah, the 9 Forest, it's aggressive, but you do have lots of different ways to cast your triple-colored spells. And speaking of triple-colored spells, we're also running an Everflowing Insight and an Omniscience.
So the Omniscience and the Insight definitely are paired together. You aren't playing these cards separately. The dream is to have the Insight in hand where you cast Omniscience, target yourself, draw 7, cast them all for free.
I feel like the dream is to Omniscience and to Niv Mizzet and to Everflowing Insight.
Okay, that's the dream. Okay. You see, I was being reasonable-esque.
I mean, are we looking at the list? Are we being reasonable?
No,
I think we're past.
We're not being reasonable. And also, there is a Nezahal. He's just hiding in the bottom corner. He is there.
He's flickered out. He's tuckered out, that one.
But, yeah, so you have Omniscience, Overflowing Insight, and the Immortal Sun to pair with your one-ofs. Other than that, we have 2 Rivers Rebuke hanging out in there to bounce all land permanents or opponent's control.
Yep.
And also, it looks like 3 Star of Extinction.
Now, Star of Extinction, you might be a card that you wouldn't know if you don't play whatever format that is good in.
I think exactly Brawl.
Yeah.
For like the 5 minutes people played Brawl.
Yeah, for the 5 minutes people played Brawl, it's 7 mana to deal 20 damage to each creature and each Planeswalker. In other words, kill every Planeswalker and creature, most likely. And then you destroy a land. Now, one key thing is that if the land leaves this card fizzles.
Yeah.
It's not super relevant in Standard. Just don't target their Field of Ruin, because that would be kind of embarrassing.
It's really funny for this card that Field of Ruin can't actually target one of your own lands. I understand like all the reasons behind it, but just that specifically is really funny.
Oh no, that's pretty funny.
Yeah, F for Brawl, guys. Pay respects.
I think we've talked enough about the decks at this point.
Yeah, I think we're good to go ahead and send it down to them and give them the, there's only one player there. When Ricky sits down, you guys are good to go.
Alright. So
players had not finished getting ready for their match in the 10 minutes it took for us to talk about their decks.
I thought we were doing deck.
No.
That's what I was saying.
Alright, there was a small misunderstanding there. Rip. Now, this matchup, I feel pretty bad for the team of Ramp deck game 1.
Oh, absolutely. Your deck, outside of draws that are just like very heavy on Gift of Paradise into a Star of Extinction, I don't know how you actually plan to win this game.
I feel like game 1s, you just kind of have to hope your opponent doesn't do anything early game. They just keep a bad hand. And games 2 and 3, you do have access to like 3 Fiery Colonnades and 3 Shivan Fires in your sideboard. So those do help out a little bit.
Mm-hmm. There definitely are some cards that will make it a lot better for Michael's side, but just looking at the 75 overall, this is not where he wants to be sitting down, and if that's the case, I don't think this Standard format is where you want to be sitting down, because Sacred Foundry will be in abundance.
Yeah, from what I've seen of the early 5-0 list, there appears to be a lot of red X decks.
There were 3 different ones, importantly.
Yes.
There's the white-based one that Ricky is on, there's a red-based one, and then there's a Goblins one, and the Goblins one is actually surprisingly good as well.
The list that I'm kind of curious to try out that I was thinking about early in spoilers is there was a Bant mid-range list that 5-0'd one of the first leagues. It looks super rough, but
it was on like green-white splash to fairy, right?
Yeah, that was it. That was basically my idea in draft as well. It's like, I mean, green-white's good and Teferi's good, and you just jam them together.
The only thing about it is like Teferi's Plus doesn't really do anything with your deck.
Don't you even worry about what he does or does not do. You can run like spells with Flash, instant.
Like what?
I don't know. I really don't.
This is not a cast out format.
There's
or seal away, whatever it is.
I
already gave them a go ahead. Play Magic.
I don't know. Like it seems to me, in theory.
Mm-hmm.
And all the control lists I saw that were 5-0 looked really rough.
Double planes, eh? Well, yeah. I kind of overheard some of this catching the back end of Versus Live. Them talking about the fact that too many players, I think, or they thought, are trying to port the control lists from last format over, and a lot of those decks were trying to go wider or larger than cards like Scrap Heap Scrounger.
Yeah.
And you couldn't play 1-for-1 removal in a format that Scrap Heap Scrounger existed in. And that card doesn't exist anymore. The only card that 1-for-1 removal doesn't really work against anymore is History Benalia and like Blood Operative. But the more I've been playing with Blood Operative, the less good it is.
And there are also just enough pieces that you're missing now that make the deck change drastically.
Oh, yeah.
So it makes it a really weird spot to be in as far as control decks are concerned.
I was liking what I was hearing where they were saying if you want to play, like, say, Jeskai, that the builds that you should be on are more tap-out focused, like a red-white deck splashing to Fairy instead of a blue-white deck splashing Burn.
Yeah.
But here we just see Ricky on a start of 2 Knight of, is that Glory, right?
That is Knight of Glory, yes.
With the 3 planes, looks like a handful of red spells, and Michael going to go ahead and be able to put a Gift of Paradise down on a land, his 4th land joining it, 3 more mana, and another gift. So Michael back up to 20.
And this might be the type of hand that he's able to win the game, seeing as he has been able to ramp out a substantial sum. And
it happens when your opponent plays no spells that matter.
Yeah.
We have an access to 4, 5, 6, 7 mana, so if there's a worm, it's coming down. There's at least a River's Rebuke. He has the 8th mana in hand. There is a Plaka Worm, so he's thinking about scrying before drawing.
Yeah, and looks like he's just going to do that. And he sees an Arch of
I feel like that's... I know we're very heavily in the lead right now, but I just feel like the Arch of Araska is going too deep for the longer games that I don't think are going to happen here. But yeah. Michael disagrees.
I think it's fine to keep.
I just think you already have a draw engine with your treasure map that's about to flip.
Yeah. Like, I could see certainly keep putting on the bottom, but it does feel a little bit weaker than possibly your average draw, considering you might get one draw out of it.
Sorry.
You're good.
And we have hit the city's blessing here on turn 5 for Michael. Up to 23 as well.
Now,
Yeah, this is not a game that the all plains hand is going to beat.
it certainly is not. And right now, Ricky's just going to have to hold everything back and let Michael continue doing what he wants to do.
Michael here is thinking about an upkeep treasure map. I assume River's Rebuke is probably going to be being cast this turn.
There is a decent chance that he ends up just playing that to get that little bit of card disadvantage from Ricky's side.
There's the map flip with its 3 treasures. We get the scry. Looks like just a steam vent's going to go straight to the bottom.
Yeah, easy scry on that one.
Picked up the new explosive vegetation.
Yep, that is the one thing. The one thing.
The root.
The root.
The route. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 mana access right now. He could have 11, but I assume that those treasures want to get kept for the map.
I would assume so.
But I mean, if for whatever reason he wanted to, he could River's Rebuke and the gate thing this turn.
He could. He does have access to both if he really wants to.
I just don't think that the 2 lands for next turn are going to be better than 2 more draws over the course of 2 more
Oh no,
turns.
they are definitely not, unless you're just trying to shoot for the sky and have as much fun as you possibly can for Banefire effects or something. I don't know.
For the Banefire matchup that we're in, right?
I mean, we know Ricky likes Banefire, so
So here's the River's Rebuke. There's 6 mana being tapped for it. Ricky's going to have to pick all his non-land permanents back up. Ricky doesn't want to play anymore.
yep. So that's a totally reasonable point to concede from Ricky's side there. He's going to be so far behind as far as tempo is concerned, and Michael has a 7/7 in play. So
And is above 20.
and he's above 20. That's an important thing. So now we'll just go and pull on over to the sideboards here.
So importantly here, Michael did happen to squeak out his first game.
Yep.
That is going to put him very at a higher percentage to win this match, but I'm not
Yes.
sure if it's at the point that it's dramatically good for him still.
Now, he does gain access to 6 early game removal
Yes.
spells in the form of 3 Shivan Fires and 3 Fiery Cannonades.
No, those are going to be extremely important cards for Michael to have. Shivan Fire playing the shock role as the bad burst lightning, and Fiery Cannonade being a 3 mana instant speed pyroclasm. Both are going to be very strong. Ricky's on no pirates. Karizev is left, even though Fiery Cannonade wouldn't kill it. And so I assume those 6 cards to come in. I don't see anything else that's really good in this matchup.
Yep.
I would anticipate Nezahal and Niv-Mizzet to leave.
Those certainly could be taken out. Though, I have to wonder if they are better than going for the cute plan of Overflowing Insight and Omniscience.
That's fair. So, Banefire, Omniscience, Overflowing Insight, Nezahal are at least 4 cards I want to leave for sure. I'm not sure if Niv-Mizzet should be leaving, actually, thinking about it, because if you ever untap with that card, it's going to start killing Ricky's board very, very
Yes. How do we feel about Star of Extinction? I realize it's a board wipe, but
quick. It's a Fumigate, effectively, in this matchup.
sure.
For this deck, it's his Fumigate.
All right, well then, I'm not really sure what to cut outside of that, because you don't want to cut any ramp spells, and you don't want to cut down too much on your late game. So,
He's on a total of 27 lands. There's a possibility to go down to a 26 and cut an arch.
yeah, that's fine as well. I hadn't looked at the land count. I thought it was 26, but yeah, I could see cutting down a land as well.
I don't actually mind that. So
Yeah.
you have Nezahal, Omniscience, Overflowing Insight, Arc of Araska, Banefire, and then we just need a 6 card. I guess if we're bringing the Cannonades, we can at least take 1 Star of Extinction out.
Yeah,
And then there's your 6 cards.
that seems reasonable. And then from the Boros aggro side, looking at the sideboard here, oh boy.
I don't think he was expecting the old lamp.
He certainly was probably not expecting the lamp. I have to think that maybe this is a matchup where you bring in Conclave Tribunal, just as a way, kind of a catch-all.
So what are you taking for the most part?
I mean, so it kills the Palaka Worm, which you otherwise are kind of cold to. It can answer a Niv-Mizzet or try to answer a Nezahal.
Do you ever take a Gift of Paradise with it?
You can,
Or are you willing to?
if you think it'll help you.
I think there's actually a reasonable amount of situations where he might. And that makes it more of a discussion for me here. And but the issue is, of Ricky's main deck, I don't know what isn't good. We don't really want to disrupt her strategy all that much to try to play this weird slower game against him.
I mean,
because the more time you give the ramp deck, the better his deck's going to be.
you could, if you're trying to just go faster than them with a little bit of disruption, I could see cutting down on the militia buglers. Aside from that, there's nothing else I want to cut incredibly. So, because your 2-drops are a little weaker. Well, your 2-mana 1/1 double strike is a little weaker a lot of the time, but he is an early game pressure card, and you don't really want to cut down on any of that.
I definitely would not take the card out on the play.
Yeah, on
I
the
would
draw.
discuss it on the draw.
Yeah. So only thing I would consider is the militia buglers from here, and everything else seems good.
Yeah, honestly, I'm not even really that interested in anything that we're doing in the sideboard. Like, the Conclave Tribunals are potentially good, but I don't know if they're actually good enough.
Yeah. I guess that's something that's just gonna end up being up to Ricky's decision here.
So we'll go ahead and give them the go-ahead. Y'all are good to play. And we'll see game 2, and hopefully Ricky, looks like there's red sources in that hand. So we have him gonna cast real cards.
Yep. Hopefully he has white mana to go with that. Oh, and he does.
Is there an argument for, so if you're in a tournament and you're from Ricky's seat, your opponent has resolved a Palaka Worm and all you have done is play Knights of Glory, do you concede without showing him your second color?
I mean, I think that's totally reasonable.
Like, do you think there was a chance for Ricky to win that game?
So, I think that there's a small chance, being as with the amount of cards you've seen that ramp from the opponent's side, there's a chance that they just kind of have like a dead hand.
Yeah.
But they do have 2 draw engines active at that point. So it becomes a bigger question of how much do you value disinformation in this type of matchup? Because, like, you're already kind of showing that you're an aggressive deck. What's going to change that much from the opponent's sideboarding?
I'd say that the green-white deck you sideboard slightly different for against than the the white deck.
Main thing just becomes, do you value the small possibility of winning more or the small amount of benefit you gain from disinformation?
Yeah, no, that's completely fair.
In that type of situation, I wouldn't concede, but I in general kind of lean towards not caring about information as much as I do small percentages of winning.
No, I can understand that side. So we saw the mentor creature into a History of Benalia, and it was Shalai. It looks like Shalai went ahead and came in here for Ricky's, valuing protecting his creatures and his face here, it seems.
Now, in that matchup, I do see Michael has a Banefire in hand. The Shalai will end up being a Banefire Lightning Rod if it goes into that point of the game.
Michael's hand looks a little awkward. It looks like he has a lot of check lands and nothing for them to find, although he does have this forest in hand that he's been holding. So it looks like we're just going to ramp into 7 this turn, but I'm not... Is the mentor creature, is he a knight? Or no, he's a soldier.
Okay.
Yes. So we're going to have a total swing of 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 this turn, so Michael's going to be going down to 7.
And at that point, so if he plays a Black Worm, he'll go up to 14, but he'll still be taking a fair amount of damage on the next swing.
And for anyone that might be confused about that, that is not +1/+1 counters or indicating that there are multiple knights. That is the pump from History of Benalia.
Ah.
So we have a total of 9 coming in here. Michael going to fall down to 7, as I said. And if Ricky has a good follow-up here and Michael doesn't, like, draw the star. Because Shalai just gives hexproof to your...
One second, let me actually double-check, but it should be creatures you control and... yourself.
Oh, and I was incorrect here. Michael can't play a Palaka Worm. I was thinking Treasure Map was a ramp spell.
Oh, it is not that.
Yeah, and he sees Double Worm Banefire. I think Michael's just dead.
Yeah, at this point, he's just dead. Shalai gives hexproof to you, planeswalkers you control, and your creatures.
The Compass is going to go ahead and name the Treasure Map, Michael, making it very clear to us. And Star of Extinction was... Or no, that's the...
That's
Burst Lightning.
Yes, Shivan Fire.
Okay, so that actually kind of plays. So Michael here can go ahead and Banefire down Shalai and have the Shivan Fire to kill off the Knight of Glory, which means that Ricky can pump the mentor creature and put a counter on the Knight, but it's only worth 6 points of damage. So he's actually not dead to the current board with Banefire plus Shivan Fire.
Yeah. Now, Michael's kind of fanning around his hand trying to figure out what line he wants to take, but I'm pretty sure at this point that's the only real line that is available.
Yeah, you have to do that and then hope that your untapped non-shock land casts your Palaka Worm.
Yeah. Well,
Michael doing all the math for it.
and Michael's just going to concede.
Interesting. So there's possibility for him to be able to actually come out of that game alive, and I'm interested to see why he conceded there.
So he would have been taking 4 damage the following turn?
4, potentially 6.
4, potentially 6. Going down to potentially 1 life, then potentially up to 8. Yeah, it is interesting to think about there as to why he may have conceded.
Also, the Shivan Fire is an instant, so you can hold on to the fire, wait until your opponent attacks. So if your opponent's play is Taijik, and they go to attack with all, you can kill the Taijik and go to 1 100% of the time.
Yeah. I don't know. May have also just been a misline from Michael's side there, but...
Maybe he thinks that Banefire only targets players.
Maybe I doubt that. I really doubt that, but...
So any changes going into our
third game?
sideboarding, do you think?
Most likely not.
Okay. Yeah, I wouldn't expect all that much different. I'd anticipate that players are going to be on the same thing. I'm surprised to see Shalai coming in, but...
Yeah, I really don't see the huge benefit to it. It does protect your creatures from the burn spells on the opponent's side, but at the same time, if they have burn spells, they're just going to cast them earlier on anyways.
Yeah, all your first creatures are going to die regardless, so...
It's certainly an interesting pick there from Ricky's side, and it may just be a defensive choice on his part. He just brings in a lot of matchups. So...
One of the things that I think is hilarious about this deck is that it's sideboarding Settle the Wreckages.
Yeah, you gotta win the mirror match.
Does that even win the mirror match?
I don't know.
If you're not playing anything on 4, do you win the mirror match?
I legit don't know. I mean, like, that subtle luckage value is too strong, I guess.
Looks like we see a hand here with a couple burn spells, a Star of Extinction, and a handful of lands, but no acceleration into faster mana.
Yeah, that's a questionable hand from Michael's side there. Though, if he has everything, if he has some early game burn spells, it might be worth considering keeping it just to hope he draws into one of his mini ramp spells.
Yeah, being able to effectively kill what Ricky has for the first couple of games will mean that Michael will have longevity. You guys are good to play.
Yeah. So, Michael just going to go and start off on a tap land here. Nothing super exciting for the first turn on either side.
This is Banefire. It is hanging out.
It loves being in his hand.
It is. It's a card that I'm still surprised to kind of see in the deck still.
Yeah, I suppose it can be used as some type of removal spell, even if it's really inefficient.
That definitely makes that Shivan Fire look a little awkward. The 2/3 making a bad day from Michael's side.
Yep. If Ricky doesn't play anything better, he can go ahead and Banefire away the 2/3. And if he wants to, he can Shivan Fire the Knight end of turn and just kind of clear off Ricky's board for now.
Yep, and yeah, the Knight is going to go ahead and show us why most players are saying this is the best standard card, or one of them. This card is just constantly powerful. It beats 1-for-1 removal just straight up. There's so many things, and it's one of the reasons some players in Jeskai colors are even talking about playing Fiery Cannonade over Deafening Clarion, because Cannonade has better play patterns against History Benalia.
Yeah, I would agree. And also, there aren't a ton of cards you hear about that much that have 3 toughness as compared to 2 or higher than 3, as those are the only ones that the Cannonade is worse against.
I think it's Vinemare specifically
is
the one that is a problem. So, Ricky, you're looking like we're playing an Aurelia. Michael 1 land off of being able to kick a Shivan Fire to get rid of that, but no, it has 5 toughness, so we can't do a Cannonade plus Shivan Fire to kill it.
Nope, he is kind of left a little weak to that right now.
So it looks like Cannonade going to go ahead and be cast.
Cannonade plus Shivan Fire on the 2/3.
Yep, so everything except for Aurelia is going to die here.
And that seems actually fine here from Michael's side.
So Aurelia not going to get any value on the turn it comes into play. Michael going to draw. Looks like he picked up another Fiery Cannonade. Not a bad draw.
Nope. Doesn't do anything about the Aurelia, but if it's just the Aurelia in play, you can certainly survive through that.
I mean, it chunks real fast. 5 damage is a lot.
Isn't it 4 damage because it gives plus 2?
Oh, right. For some reason, I think it makes itself a 5/5.
No, not quite that good. But 4 damage is a decent amount of damage.
It looks like we're going for a Banefire plus Shivanfire play. Nope, we're just going to go ahead and pass back. Benalia pops, all his knights get big.
Yep. Unfortunately for him, he has none of those.
It really looks like she could be a knight.
She's
She's just an angel.
She certainly does have everything going on.
I'm
to
surprised
be
she's
an
not
art.
at least a soldier.
That's fair. The fact that she's just an angel is kind of interesting.
Shalai here going to go ahead and join Aurelia. Aurelia going to come in for 4 damage with
Now-
Vigilance. Found a tapped land. Alright, so if Ricky isn't able to threaten a ton of damage, an untapped land casts a Star of Extinction.
Yeah. I think that Michael's just going to go ahead and Banefire off the Shalai and leave Ricky with just the Aurelia in play here.
Shalai down, Ricky draws his 6th land of the game. I'm going to go ahead and see what he plays here. 2 mana. There is a Sorcerer's Spyglass. So we're going to see Niv Mizzet, Fiery Cannonade, Star of Extinction.
His hand does look pretty good here.
Forest.
Yeah, the Forest is certainly awkward. Right now, he is 1 blue and 1 red away from casting that Niv Mizzet. Being as he has...
He could draw 2 blue.
He could draw 2 blue. That is an option he has available to him.
He can't draw 2 red, though. That doesn't work.
No. He needs to draw a very specific mana or one of his ramp spells.
And his ramp spells aren't very good here because they just set him to getting chunked for 4 again.
It's not good, no, but it's something.
I'm assuming that our Spyglass is naming Treasure Map again. It seems to be the only real activated ability out of Michael's deck, which is one reason I'm not a big fan of playing it.
Yeah.
There is a Rootbound Crag. So if our top card is Hinterland Harbor, we Star of Extinction this turn, then we can play Niv.
Yeah.
Got there.
I mean, it feels bad to Star of Extinction away a single creature, but I think that Michael might be in a position where he has no other choice.
Especially when you're not actually potentially hitting Ricky's lands. One of the nice things about Star of Extinction is it's possible to actually, like, say, get rid of red mana for a period of time.
Mm-hmm.
But Ricky drawing 6 lands is going to make that pretty difficult. This is a Taijik. Tapping all our red mana for it. I know, it's a Legion Warboss. There he is. Goblin Rabblemaster Impersonator.
Yep.
Gonna go ahead and make a 1/1. Mentor. Pretty strong card overall.
Pretty strong card, though Michael does have another board wipe in his hand, and he will be able to set up Niv Mizzet next turn.
He is... Oh, yeah. I was about to say, can he play Niv this turn? No, he's 1 mana off.
He has 1 mana off of doing that, but he can for sure set up next turn and have a mostly clear board with the Fiery Cannonade.
One nice thing about the Fiery Cannonade here is he doesn't have to worry about Ricky making another token here. You can just let him go into combat, make sure that he's killing what needs to be killed. Ricky here looks like he drew a Taijik, but he's not going to be able to use the card because it will just die to the Cannonade if he puts it into play.
Yep. So Ricky here is just going to have to go to combat and try to force that Fiery Cannonade here, but it looks like Ricky disagrees.
I really hope he's not disagreeing and trying to cast a Taijik. He knows the Cannonade is there.
He does know the Cannonade is there. And at this point, your board is certainly good enough to be cannonaded.
Yes, you have a Rabblemaster. That card requires an answer. That's how it works. You have one of these in play, your opponent doesn't kill it, you lose.
Alright, Ricky is now reading Niv Mizzet.
I'm so glad that this game might come down to Niv Mizzet.
It would be interesting if the Boros aggro deck got beat in by Niv Mizzet, the Perun.
Not doing any of that countering that it can't be done.
Certainly he is not doing that. Alright, nope, Ricky's just doing it.
Are we sure? Oh, right, it counters Fiery Cannonade.
Oh, yeah.
That's what Taijik does. Cannonade going to be cast before it. I just completely forgot about his second ability.
Rip, we are bad.
It hasn't come up as a relevant thing for me yet.
Alright, so Ricky does have a decent board here again, but Niv Mizzet can block all the creatures from the opponent's side.
Correct. Michael, though, picking up Forest, and it's going to take 2 draw steps for Niv to actually kill anything, or an instant or sorcery picked up from Michael. Unfortunately, with a ton of artifacts, he's actually pretty short on cards that trigger Niv Mizzet.
Yeah, that is an unfortunate thing for him here.
There's a Plains.
Ricky has no other cards in hand, so he should definitely hold land in hand here because it could potentially skew the way that Michael might block.
Like it was an Integrity or something like that.
But instead, he's... well, no, he ends up doing that and just
Niv Ping
passing.
goes face, and Michael did draw a non-creature spell, so he could have killed Taijik.
Yeah, that is unfortunate there.
Unless he's thinking that Taijik's ability is all creatures and not just not Taijik.
That would be heavily unfortunate.
Looks like... So now we're going to ping Taijik. Okay, it looks like we picked up a Fiery Cannonade here. So what Michael can do is play Fiery Cannonade,
Cast it, draw a card, kill it, play the Cannonade. Yep.
So, yep, the card's going to go ahead and pick up, I believe, the last Izzet Guildgate out of his deck, and more than likely a Forest with it. And then, yeah, our Fiery Cannonade is going to be able to clean up the board here. Even though there is a Taijik in play, which should make it difficult, but...
It should, but Niv Mizzet is a weird card, and this is also just going to be a good card advantage play from Michael's side.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, we'll have Cannon play, Niv trigger, draw a card. Didn't see what he picked up. Looked like it was a Palaka Worm. Everything's going to get cleaned up. Are you attacking? Michael says yes.
I would hold it back, but he also isn't super threatened. There's not many ways he just straight dies.
Like if Ricky's last card is, say, Intervention, and he top decks a Taijik.
Yeah.
There's Aurelia. That's a relatively reasonable card, but it's not doing a ton right now.
Nope. It gets blocked in the air by the Niv Mizzet, and...
Shiv and Fire the draw, so that kills the Aurelia, because you can kick it.
Kick it, and then you'll draw a card off of the Niv Mizzet.
You also just have the Niv Mizzet draw in general. You're drawing a card for turn, pinging it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. Niv gonna, Shiv and Fire gonna target the Aurelia. Michael will draw a card, ping Ricky's face here.
Yep.
So Aurelia dies. Ricky goes down to 13. Another attack for 5, going to put him down to 8, and this should be a Palaka Worm, and this game is done.
Yeah. And it looks like Michael here pulling this match out as a 2-1, most likely. Though I really don't see many ways Ricky's going to be able to come back from an active Niv Mizzet and a Palaka Worm in play.
I am pretty impressed, and I think it just came down to like a couple lucky draws for Michael's side, and other than that, just some of the cards that Ricky decided to side in not really having much of a good effect in the game.
Yeah, I would totally agree on that. So now we're going to end up seeing Ricky again, only this time he's going to be going against Josh, who is going to be on green, black, mid-range. And I'm actually going to go and pull that list up real quick.
Golgari mid-range.
It's named differently than it is on the thing.
Correct. All right, so I can talk a lot about this deck.
Okay.
I've actually been playing a lot of this deck on Magic Arena. This is one of the decks that I've primarily been playing, doing pretty well with. So I was playing the Dredge style. I was doing that last week.
Yeah.
Narcomoeba is not as good in Standard as it is in other formats where you're doing busted stuff. Narcomoeba is just a 1/1. It's not worth a slot in the deck. Creeping Chill has a discussion, but it's still not worth Standard at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to keep with a Stitcher Supplier, Golgari, or a Glowspore Shaman list, and was looking around. One of the Versus videos, I don't remember who played it, but I think it was Ross.
Okay.
Ross played a list similar to this. There are some changes that I make. One of the most important one being Elvish Rejuvenator over District Guide.
Yeah.
Other than that, putting Ravenous Chupacabra in the deck. His list didn't have any copies of it.
Mm-hmm.
And playing Contempt over Assassin's Trophy for the main deck.
Okay.
I just think that on average that's going to be what's a little bit better. But so you have your green-black mid-range with the Eldest Reborn, Find Finality, and Vraska as just extremely powerful engines. And after playing games with Vraska last week, this card is extremely powerful.
Yeah. The card does seem like it has a lot of strength on its face here. And the fact that +2s is something that's really stands out to me in a format in a Planeswalker. Being able to just get yourself that much closer to your ultimate, and it can theoretically come and play at 6 is such a strong starting point. And you do have natural synergies with the +2 to gain some additional card advantage, and that -3 is no slouch either.
No, I have with like a Rejuvenator into block or something killed a lot of the 3-mana 5/4 Steel Leaf Champion, all those type of cards. Vraska is very versatile, and if you ultimate, you win. It is pretty much what I found. You have so many dopey little idiots, especially if you ever cast an Izoni.
Yeah.
Izoni is one of the major reasons I wanted to go towards this, because that card is very, very powerful. She's under the choops over here.
Yeah.
Izoni is not... what's the spider? The delirium spider.
Ishkana.
Ishkana. It is not Ishkana, but it is the closest thing we have, and Izoni is very, very good.
So Izoni, yes, it's not Ishkana, but Ishkana was honestly a messed up card.
Yes.
So being a slightly worse version of that card is not the worst thing, and this does have some alternate use in the way that it can be used to draw cards, which the Ishkana cannot.
Yeah, it has a draw engine attached to it. One of the other important things about this card is that it does get cleaned up by Chain Wheeler, which sucks. So this isn't exactly the safest card against your red decks.
Yes.
So like hoping that this is your end all. But in those red matchups, your end all is actually Finality.
That is fair. Finality does seem fairly strong in the red-based aggressive matchups.
And a card like Finality is the primary reason that I believe this type of deck should be on Elvish Rejuvenator over District Guide. And that's because getting to land 6 as fast as possible is important. And while this deck could be on, say, like Llanowar Elves, I just don't think that that card fits what this deck is trying to do as well.
Also, Llanowar Elves is a card that its effect can be taken away by it being killed through whatever various mean you want to kill it. Whereas the Elvish Rejuvenator gives you a permanent form of ramp and also gives you a ram derpy body to work with and fuels your later undergrowth effects. That is the name of the mechanic, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Other than that, side notes, Dusk Legion Zealot just being a reasonable card to replace itself in the early game. Golgari Finebroker is very good.
That is fair. Just slightly worse Eternal Witness here, but it being a slightly bigger Eternal Witness.
A 3/4 is very good stats in this standard format.
Yes, and its ability, it does feel fairly strong.
Being able to get back cards like the Eldest Reborn or Ravenous Chupacabra, or in the control matchups, the other one that's in your graveyard, and just looping them.
Yep, or even getting back a Vraska if it has managed to die somehow. There are just so many different ways you can just get that insane amount of value off of this card fairly easily, and it has, like you said, a pretty strong body attached to it.
Yep. All right, so I think the players are ready, so we'll go ahead and send down there. You guys are good to start. And we'll go ahead and see how the deck plays against Boros Aggro, which is a matchup I've played quite a large amount of games against.
Okay.
And I find that if they don't have explosive draws, you are favored.
Okay. Doesn't sound too far off a lot of matchups against Boros Aggro decks, historically speaking, but I do understand what you mean there.
Here you see a Stitcher Supplier, a Mill Over, a Dusk Legion Zealot, a Fine Broker, and a Woodland Cemetery. And there is... I need to remember the name of this card.
That card is named Boros Challenger.
The Boros Challenger, the very powerful 2/3. Mentor is a very good effect.
It certainly is here. And now from Josh's side, we're going to go ahead and see him start off with a 2-drop of his own in the form of Glowspore Shaman.
Yep, we're going to see 2 Rejuvenators on a Fine Finale hit the yard, and it looks like we're interested in putting that Woodland Cemetery on top. So that's interesting here, because it means Josh can't block with the Stitcher Supplier.
Yes, because then it would he would be forced to mill his own tech card he set up.
Yep, and it looks like we don't have land 4 just yet, and we're setting up for the Ravenous Chupacabra that's in hand. Looks like Chupacabra, Fine Finality, another Glowspore, and a Dusk Legion Zealot in the hand. So our Mentor card is going to come in, and so here Ricky's asking, are you willing to block with your Glowspore Shaman and play into a Integrity intervention?
I think that he's fine with forcing the Integrity here.
Yeah. I like trading the Glowspore for the removal spell, because now you have land 4, although it comes into play tapped because it's Woodland Cemetery, and his draw has been Golgari Guildgate Memorial Folly.
Yeah, he has not had a great time with his lands here, but he isn't getting punished for it super hard at this point.
No, not at all. And we see a Swamp going to the top after a Fine Finality and a Stitcher Supplier went to the graveyard. So he's hitting his land drops, and Josh importantly seeing that he should be attacking with the Stitcher Supplier when there's no blocks, because he's not blocking with it if there's a land on top.
Yeah.
looks like he's just rearranging his graveyard to be able to better tell for undergrowth. Looks like we have an undergrowth count of 6 at the moment.
And that does feel fairly strong if he is able to get his Izoni at any point in play.
Yep. Aurelia here going to go ahead and threaten a lot of damage from this challenger, but I mean, you have the trade. You should take it because you will be able to Chupacabra the Aurelia.
Yeah, there's no reason to let that damage
Why
through.
are you letting
Amazing.
the damage through?
So, the thing you have to wonder is, you were willing to make this block last turn.
Yes.
Why are you not willing to make it this turn?
Especially when it's a lot better.
Yes.
Because it's a guarantee. So yeah, Chupacabra here going to take down Aurelia, and the Boros Challenger just got to get in for free damage, and we're attacking now?
It seems like a fairly interesting switch of gears Josh is going for here.
He is not the deck that wants to go long in this match. I mean, he is not the deck that wants to clean up games. If you go long, especially against this white-based version of Boros, you will win.
So if I may try to possibly lend my thought as to why Josh is taking this line of play, is the way that Ricky's been playing might lead you to think that he's kind of running on air at this point, with the Aurelia and the 2-drop Knight being the only relevant things he's played. And Josh may be trying to punish the fact that the opponent doesn't have much going on, though I don't necessarily, as you said, think he needs to.
No, not at all. I just think that... So, I don't know if Josh is paying attention a lot to this card, but the card that Ricky is messing around with is Path of Metal. And this card is very strong against this build of the deck because almost everything has 1 toughness.
Yeah. And one other thing is, while looking at Josh's hand, his play becomes a lot more reasonable if he himself is running on air. But looking at his hand, he appears to have gas in his hand.
Find Finality and the Dusk Legion Zealot are sitting in the hand. And if we draw like land 6 here, I'm very interested. Ooh, Elvish Rejuvenator. So starting on there, as long as we hit, we can pick up Izoni and a Find Broker, I believe.
Yeah, and that seems like a pretty reasonable play here.
We have hit. I saw land in the mix.
Yep. So he's going to put that force in, and I really would hope to expect a find from Josh's side, like you said. Pick up the Izoni and then one other value creature in his graveyard.
Yep, so Find going to go ahead and pick up 2 creatures. Ricky's going to have a read. So yeah, I would assume either Ravenous Chupacabra if it's there, or just the Find Broker. And yep, Find Broker is going to get picked up. Ricky going to take a look at both the new cards.
And I think that both those picks are pretty reasonable here. And if he's able to get that Izoni down, we know that Ricky's not on any real way to handle that.
No.
And most likely he will get ran over by all of the 1/1s.
So Ricky here picks up. It looks like his hand is just a bunch of lands. Importantly here, if Ricky is able to flip a Path of Metal, it gets a lot more difficult from Josh's perspective.
Gets a lot more difficult, but with the way Josh's hand is lined up, he might be able to get around that quickly enough.
Josh thinking about it as a double block good. It is not. He disagrees. So I can understand wanting to force Ricky's hand on 2 mana because there's 2 more 1/1s. But what if, say, another Path of Metal comes off the top here?
Yeah, that seems a little aggressive there from Ricky's side here, but
here is Izoni. And Izoni is very, very good. In games where you untap with her, you almost always win.
Yeah. We had mentioned her briefly in the deck text here, but when you have a large amount of creatures in your graveyard, it just creates kind of an army and a can effect. And
It looks like Josh has a total of 9 for his overgrowth count.
9 for his overgrowth count.
Or undergrowth, rather.
Undergrowth, and actually I'm just going to go and pull up that Izoni here for those who aren't familiar. And with the ability on the Izoni, if Josh somehow runs out of gas with this and thinks that it might be better to get some card advantage, he can start sacrificing his miscellaneous tokens to get some additional card draw and life gain.
Yep, he's just in a very, very strong position here. Aurelia going to come down, so the Boros Challenger can get a bit bigger and attack in here, but it's not really going to matter in this stage of the game. Importantly, Josh should pick up his 7th land, meaning that if another land ETB is untapped from the top, he can Find Broker into Chupacabra to take care of anything that he deems a threat.
Yeah. And if Ricky attacks in here, I'd almost be interested in seeing a block with the Izoni just to pick it back up with the Find Broker as another possible line.
Well, that's a line. If you're blocking with Izoni, I actually just like blocking with all the insects and just killing the guy for free.
That's fair.
Because he kills 4 of your dudes? Who cares?
Kills 4 of your dudes, and you're left with still a large amount of men.
You have
and
5 in and Izoni hanging out?
Yeah, no, you're fine. And Ricky's just not going to attack here, not going to offer his opponent that free little bit of board control here.
So Josh is at a high life total still. He's at 16, so I actually like a shock into Find Broker Chupacabra.
Yeah, I think that's entirely reasonable, especially considering the fact that he's he's basically gaining life by making that play.
This is aggressive. I'm not against it.
It's fairly aggressive. One thing of note is if he's planning on doing the Chupacabra play, I think he should do that in main phase 1 to get that additional damage in. But
It's not like you're saying or trying to walk him into anything. There's nothing to walk into here.
yeah, like the line is set.
The only thing that could potentially happen is a finality, and it's not like it looks like we're going for the sack on.
Okay, so he's going to
creatures.
sacrifice 2 creatures, draw 2 cards, gain 2 life.
You have to get rid of the card when you sacrifice it.
I think he's just going to do that last, and so he should be at 7.
And 18.
Yep,
Okay.
18 life,
Picked up
and
2 lands, it looked like.
now
7.
Josh is a fairly respectable life total, but he has left his blocking ability a little lower.
His blocking is pretty low, but it's unlikely that there's like a huge board state that happens from Ricky that makes it dangerous. The only thing I could see happening is a Tydric draw off the top, because the Tydric draw off the top means that Aurelia gets to target herself, Tydric gets to attack, and so does the Challenger. Aurelia grows Tydric, and Tydric grows Challenger.
And that does feel like a possible strong thing Ricky can do, but it looks like instead he goes ahead and finds himself his Pump/Burn spell.
Yep, Integrity Intervention picked up here. I didn't... Okay, so yeah, we just played the Dusk Legion Zealot also. That seems like a weak card to play, if given our options.
Looking at the way he's playing, I think he might be slightly overvaluing the draw off of Zoni. The draw can be very strong, but you are at a point where you can start focusing less on card advantage and start focusing more on wrapping up the game here. Being as your opponent, very obviously at this point, is not doing much, and you have a lot going on.
So Aurelia here looks like she's going to target the Challenger. Challenger, nope, just Aurelia. Or no, both of them coming in because that flips the Path of Metal.
Yep. And the Challenger is going to have Vigilance off of the Aurelia.
Yep. When she attacks, she will be able to flip the card. I think they might be thinking about, does that work that way? Looks like Josh's last draw found him... Yeah, the Dusk Legion Zealot found him a Chupacabra.
Well, that's unfortunate for him, but not terribly unfortunate considering he's still going to be able to play that next turn.
So it looks like Aurelia targeted herself, and she mentored onto the whatever it's called, the Challenger.
Yes, the Boros Challenger.
Izoni just going to go ahead and jump in front, and we're not going to see any sacrifice of a creature from Josh here.
That feels very interesting here.
Especially because he doesn't have lethal.
He has 1 damage off of lethal with the Chupacabra.
Or bugs apparently haven't slept. They don't untap.
It looks like he's just going for picking up the Nozomi and then probably playing the Chupacabra to kill the Aurelia.
So yeah, Izoni going to get picked up here. Choop's going to go ahead and take down the Aurelia. And then all these 1/1s are attacking. So 8 damage going to go ahead and threaten to put Ricky down to a total of 1 here. And Ricky did pick up an intervention. So he has some life, but I don't think it's the type of life that he needs. So if we're making this play, it's not going face in my opinion. I think it's going at Chupacabra. And I know that this long game's going to be really hard, but I think we need double Path of Metal. I think we need a path this turn and a path next turn if we're going to potentially win.
Yeah, that's basically the only way he has hope of pulling out of this.
Well, we see Boros Aggro getting beat up today.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm a fan.
Boros Aggro not having the greatest time here. We've already looked at the main board of that deck, so don't have to talk about that incredible ton. But we can go ahead and talk about the main board of this, the sideboard, of this deck.
So sideboarding for this deck, generally what I've been doing against most of the Boros Aggro builds, their creature base is 3 and under, so Ritual Suits are powerful in this matchup.
Yes.
I generally like bringing in Ritual Suit. Other than that, the 2 Moment of Cravings. Depending on the situation, I could understand bringing in something like Assassin's Trophy to have more removal for the higher end cards, but I'm not all that interested in it. The cards that I don't really like in this matchup, I'm not a huge fan of the 4th Vraska,
Okay.
the 2 Eldest Reborns, and the 3rd Find Broker. That's my opinion on it.
Okay. I think that seems entirely reasonable. I can follow the thought process there. The Eldest Reborn seeming kind of weak in this matchup, just 5 mana, do nothing. And then kind of shaving off that top end in this matchup
It
seems
has
reasonable.
the ability to be very powerful. There are situations where your opponent will have just a Taijik or just a Aurelia. I think it's a fine card to play on the play, but I definitely don't like it on the draw.
Well, also, if they only have one creature in play, I have to wonder exactly how well you're doing at that point.
I would assume it's good.
Yeah. Like, I think that it feels like if we're playing this with that line of thought in play, it feels kind of win more than anything else. But that's just my personal thought on it.
Okay, and then if we want to pull up Ricky's side of the thing, see how he's going to be sideboarding here.
All right, so the Shalais.
Yep, I would assume Shalai's coming in.
And is there anything else that we might have any interest in?
So importantly from the Golgari side again, you don't have to swap back over to it. This is just real quick. We didn't see any copies of History of Benalia, but if we did, I would think, because there's nothing about Ricky's draw that insinuated he was heavier white than he was heavier the red.
Yeah.
So if we saw History of Benalia, I would have assumed that there were Conclave Tribunals, and I would have potentially brought in Reclamation Sages in this matchup.
That is reasonable.
But seeing as though I'm assuming from the game that we watched that Ricky's on a more red-based Boros, from his side, I'd assume cards like Shalai going to make it a little more difficult for Josh's side of the board, forcing the hand on where removal is getting pointed.
Yeah.
Other than that, you could bring in Conclave Tribunal.
Yeah, I think that card seems okay. The main card I'm not super impressed by Swiftblade Vindicator in this matchup.
Nope. It's so easy to kill the creatures.
It's so easy to kill it. It's so easy to block it, and it takes so much. It takes too much of putting all of your eggs in one basket for a matchup where your opponent is heavy and on removal spells.
Especially on removal spells that are pretty good at sweeping full boards. Like playing 4 copies of Fine Finality makes these type of matchups a lot easier if you're able to get to them.
Yeah. So I kind of like cutting down to the 3 Swiftblade Vindicators and then putting in the 2 Shalais and possibly 1 Conclave Tribunal.
Yep, that makes sense to me. All right, so let's
So-
go ahead and send it back down to the players. You guys are good to start.
I really enjoy Josh's shirt. I'm not gonna lie.
What is Josh's shirt
It's
on?
just a cat looking up.
You just like Space Cat.
Yeah,
Sweet.
it's like an early 2000 shirt, but specifically when I'm watching it from the streaming booth, it just is looking at me.
It's like as if there were a cat in his lap and it were barely peeking over the table.
Yeah, that would be much better. Though, being as we occasionally get a visit from someone who is deadly allergic to cats, probably not the best
No.
for that.
So I have a question for you while we're waiting for them to go ahead and start the game.
What's that?
So if you were playing in Columbus this weekend,
Okay.
and you were the standard seed for a team, what would you play?
Boy, this standard format is not that developed at this current point.
There were a lot of decks, and I have played against a lot and played with a lot, and they all seem like they have legs.
Yeah. So I obviously would want to lean towards a more controlling deck, or a blue-based mid-range deck like the Bant one. But I think at this point I would just take a red-based aggro deck for week one.
Week one, that makes sense. So if you weren't thinking about like the week one thing and just thinking about like the decks that you like, which one would you want to be playing?
A deck with the fairy in it.
Okay. I have seen a lot of Esper control lists actually.
Yeah. No, I've seen a few lists that have been floated around. I haven't found one that I'm super happy with, but I think that we will at some point see a more concrete version of the control decks that are floating around.
I completely understand that. And like we were talking before, a lot of players are just porting over their older control decks, and that doesn't really work as well. So we see Glowspore Shaman, the first play from Josh, milling 2 Raskas and her Contempt. Well, Ricky's first play here is a History of Analia, the Shaman going to be able to do some blocking on that. Looks like there's a Dusk Legion Zealot, going to bring Josh a 19, pick up a new card, and there is a Fine Finality. I'm not sure if Josh has land 4. No, there is. It's
there
a guild
is
gate.
one. So it does enter the battlefield tap, but he will not be stuck off of his 4th mana for the following turns.
I feel like that is not super relevant at this point. Unluckily for Josh, his shamans did not mill any creatures, so he can't say Fine Finality brings some powerful creatures back for the following turns.
Yes.
There's the Knight of Malice.
That is...
Or not, the other one.
The other one. The other one's name is Knight of Grace.
Come on, untapped land? Darn. Untapped land would mean the ritual suit that's in Josh's hand. Are those Settle the Wreckages in Ricky's hand? He's going to settle all the bugs.
All right. So the thought process on bringing Saddle Wreckage in.
You're going to get the
your
bugs.
opponent had a lot of creatures, so you brought him in.
He had 9 bug.
9 bug. The explanation as to why that thought process might come into play is because you saw a lot of creatures on the opponent's side of the board. Though, if you're in the situation where you're sideboarding and you have to consider what you are doing and how you're winning a match, and what your opponent is doing and how they're winning the match.
Ooh, this is so much damage. Path of Metal is flipping. History Benalia just popped. We're going to see a total of 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 coming across this turn. Josh falling down all the way to 7, and Path of Metal is flipped. I don't think there's winning the game from Josh's side.
No, I think that this is going to be the end of the game for Josh here. He is going to be able to clear off the board with a Ritual of Suit, but there still is the flipped version of the
Path of
Metal in play, and that's going to threaten to deal 2 damage to Josh for every turn for the rest of the game, and there aren't that many turns left for Josh at that point.
That's just 4 turns, and honestly, the way that the deck is configured, if Josh just if Ricky just passes for the next 8 turns, activating it, or 4 turns activating, he wins.
Yeah, and it just really comes down to Ricky needs to realize how strong that ability is and put activating it above everything else at this point.
And I feel like he will. And that's just one of the threats about the way that the creature base from the green-black deck is built, that all of your creatures having 1 toughness for the early game means a card like Path of Metal or a card like Goblin Chain Whirler is a bit difficult for the deck to overcome in the early steps of the game.
Yeah.
But I mean, on average, if you're able to make it late, you can play. But Path of Metal makes it very difficult. Ricky's hand looks like we have a Challenger, Aurelia, Bugler, and a Settle the Wreckage hanging out in there. But again, if Ricky just activates that land 4 times, he wins.
Yeah.
Ritual Suit here, going to go ahead and clean up the board. If Josh had that untapped land, this game would have such a different dynamic.
Yeah, if he had been able to safely clear away the board the past turn, then he won't have to worry about this flip Path of Metal. He would be at 12 power life, and Ricky would just kind of be a little light on stuff to do.
Ricky, importantly, is realizing that this land is more important and going to go ahead and play Militia Bugler. Going to go ahead and reveal a War Boss. And I would like to see him just pass here, but okay, actually, War Boss is fine. It's the same clock.
It's the same clock, and it can theoretically end the game quicker.
Yep. So Josh here, if he draws an untapped land, he did. So I think he's forced to play a Finality.
He is forced to play the Finality, and then hope that he's able to gain life on the following turn.
I think he's thinking about a Fine Broker, though, and that's definitely not where this game is. Fine Broker is not the texture of this game.
No, in fact, you would be dead. Or he could be thinking about Nozomi.
One thing that I about this deck's mana base is playing 3 Fine Brokers mean almost all your sources have to have color, and it means that the deck can't really play Field of Ruin safely.
That is correct.
And that's one of the biggest downfalls that I found about it. Not being if you can't answer one of the flip lands with a Vraska, you just can't win most games that they flip.
Yes.
So yeah, here's Izoni, and I'm not sure how much it's worth. I think it might be worth 3, 4. It looks like 5.
Now, this does leave him dead to a follow-up Path of Metal, does it not?
Pretty sure it just makes him dead to a lot of things.
That is fair.
Yeah, an extra Path of Metal is very easily lethal. There's an Aurelia in Ricky's hand that could make it a little more difficult. Looks like we're going to go ahead and go towards deploying creatures. No, Ricky's going to take another thought about it.
Yeah, I think at this point, Ricky is fine to just... Well, no, the Zoni does create an issue of allowing Josh to start getting that life. So
but it's so incremental.
It's so incremental, but it does add on a couple turns away from the winning with your land plan.
So one of the biggest dangers I see here from Ricky doing is, say, if he just develops his board, hoping that next turn can be good enough to where he'll be able to do something. So say it looks like he had a Knight and a Taijik. If he plays both of those and goes for some sort of like larger attack, what Josh can do on the following turn after making a bunch of chump blocks is just Finality targeting Izoni. Izoni survives as a 0-1, and then will stick around as a 4-5. But here it looks like Aurelia is going to be the play. Wondering where that target's going to go. It looks like we're going at the War Boss.
Okay, so the War Boss is going to get a little bit of buff here. And he is going to have a multiple creatures in play that must be blocked from Josh's side here.
He wasn't happy with the mismatched goblins.
Oh,
no, sorry. That was just the War Boss trigger. Aurelia looks like we're pointing out right now. Should have happened before the goblin was made.
So Of note, I don't think there's a real reason to play Aurelia main phase 1.
Well, I mean, it's trigger. Gives trample.
Does it give trample?
Yeah, it's trample if it's red, vigilance if it's white.
Okay, that's important. I mistook what the card did.
So the War Boss looks like it's a 4/2 trample here, and it put a counter on the Militia Bugler. So if I'm in Josh's seat, what I think I'm doing here is Izoni's going in front of a Goblin.
Yeah.
And then I'm trying to see the safest way to block. Because we can't put ourselves to 2, because that means if Ricky untaps, we lose. So it might be that Izoni has to go into the War Boss then.
Well, importantly, so is your plan right now casting the Visual Suit next turn?
He doesn't have, I mean, the Fine Finality.
Fine Finale,
So
sorry.
he'd lose to the Aurelia.
He'd lose the Aurelia in combination with the
We are
land, even
thinking
if he...
a lot for a game that we can't win.
Yeah.
I think they're confused.
They appear to be heavily confused.
It has trample. If this was Arena, the card would be gently shaking. I believe that's the trample animation.
Gently
like
shaking.
The ground below it gently shakes or something.
Oh, man.
The different animations that Arena has are really interesting. But yeah, I'm pretty sure the trample is like there's like a dust cloud hanging out underneath the card.
I like the flying one where it's lightly floating.
It's like levitating. It's just hanging out in the air. Yeah, Josh is making a lot of...
Josh is so confused.
He's going to get a slow play warning for a game that he can't even win.
He's never been more confused in his life. He's just kind of like sitting there thinking...
I'm not sure if that's true.
He's never been more confused today.
It looks like we're separating the tokens because it's really hard to denounce a bunch of different blocks if you don't have actual pseudo tokens. So it looks like one bug under Bugler, one bug under each Goblin, and then there's 2 bugs left over. So if there's 2 bugs left over, I mean, okay, so everything that's in combat's dying except for the Bugler. So yeah, there's 2 left over. Josh is at 3. So I don't know what we're playing to.
I mean, if he finds a way to kill the Aurelia, he buys himself another turn.
Is there a Chupacabra in the graveyard? He could Chups from Fine Finality. We picked up a Vraska's Contempt. That's the best possible.
Yeah, that is the best possible thing he can do here. So he can kill the Aurelia, chump block the Bugler, take 2, go to 3, and still have a few turns left to 2 turns left to live after that.
I think you wait until Ricky's turn to do it.
Yeah, no,
because Aurelia on white creatures only gives vigilance.
Yes. And I completely agree with that sentiment here. And, like, there's nothing that Ricky can do to punish you, so...
We pick up Glowspore Shaman, Izoni. There is a Chupacabra in the graveyard. Interesting.
Okay.
I mean, the Contempt is definitely better because it gives you another turn. Okay, so we're main phasing it, meaning that another one has play. But, okay, so good job, Josh. You're at 5 now. You have won yourself another turn.
All right.
Didn't get a good look at what Ricky picked up there. It looked like it was a Path of Metal, so the Izoni doesn't matter anymore. Oh no, nothing matters. He loses.
He's dead. Yes.
Yay! It's finally done. I mean, on the confusion scale, there is always me.
That is fair.
I don't think you're more confused than Josh.
I
have gone to a lot of competitive REL events with Josh, and I don't think you're more confused than Josh is.
Josh is...
Confused.
He's very confused. I've known him for, like, years now.
That's a 1-to-1.
That's a 1-to-1?
Yeah.
What the heck?
That is not the match.
No. Shh. Josh is very confused. We get to see more of that, though.
Are you confused? It seems like you're confused.
I mean, I'm a little confused, yes. Aren't we all, though? When you really think about it.
Shannon, I understand, but you're not Josh. Yeah, it looks like Josh's going to go ahead and look back at the sideboard, taking a little bit of a better look at it here. He's going to bring in the Assassin Trophy. And that is one reason that I kind of like Assassin Trophy, is being able to answer cards like Path of Metal. I think there might have even been a discussion when we saw Path of Metal in that first game to bring the Reclamation Stages in then.
Yes.
Because there are at least 8 enchantments, and
Mhm.
even though you can saging one of those enchantments isn't extremely powerful, being able to hit them before they flip or Benalia before it makes more value is important. And I do like Reclamation Sage a reasonable amount there once we start talking about that.
Yeah, I think that's entirely reasonable.
Josh, you're taking a look at what he wants to go ahead and trim on. What I've found is when I start trimming heavily, it's definitely not the Rejuvenator, Josh, but I've found Stitcher Supplier is actually the weakest card,
That is reasonable.
and it's the first card that I take out a lot.
I could certainly see that be the thing that you first reach for in a lot of matchups.
But yeah, it's for these aggressive matchups, it's taking out Eldritch Reborn, some of the copies of Fine Broker, all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, you start trimming on Stitcher Supplier, which while it can block early, it's almost always a chump block. It's very rare that it's actually a trade.
Yes.
And it just doesn't do all that much except for progress one card's game plan.
Mm-hmm.
So here we're going to see Josh on the play, and that definitely has a large part to the dynamic of this matchup as well.
Yeah, and in general against aggro decks, it really matters if you win that die roll.
Yep. This build of Boros can play a little bit more like a red-white mid-range deck,
Mm-hmm.
but not as much as some of the other decks I've seen. I would really like to see a list of this deck that plays kind of like the old red-white deck that played Chain to the Rocks and all that kind of stuff.
Oh,
that
yes.
Sideboarded into a control deck.
Yeah, that was very interesting, though. They had a lot of different tools back then.
Yes, I played a lot of that deck.
I remember also the red-white list from, I don't remember if they were in Standard together, but the RTR red-white list that had the dumb enchantment that makes 1/1s.
Oh my god, Assemble the Legions is one of my favorite cards.
Yeah, I hate that card.
No, those were different Standard formats.
Yeah. I had a game go to time where my opponent had 40-some tokens in play
Oh, great.
because I had a Jace Architect of Thought,
Yeah.
and we both just kind of sat there and looked at each other.
It was the best card in like the Jessica control matchups. So yeah, we see Stitcher Supplier here going to mill over Rejuvenator, a Swamp, and a Vraska's Contempt. Josh's hand looks like there's a reasonable amount of lands up there. So I hate that he uses these two basics because they look so similar.
They look pretty similar.
Another Supplier going to mill a Contempt, Glowspore Shaman, and a Memorial to Folly. One copy of Memorial to Folly in the deck. I just found that it's a pretty free card to play for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
There is the Swiftblade Vindicator.
Yeah, that's
2
just...
mana, 1/1 Vigilance, Double Strike, Trample. Every
One-
time you get to print a 1/1 with Trample.
Yeah, they always have some neat little gimmick going on with them. This one being less neat than some of the others, but
Was the last one Angry, like the Beaver? There's a 1 green,
from
1/1 with
Theros,
Trample.
yes.
The Beaver.
Yeah, I remember also the 1/1 1/1 Goblin from Scars that got pumped for equipments being on it.
Yeah.
I like that one.
Well, here's one of the best openers from Ricky's side. Swiftblade Vanguard into Taijik going to be very threatening. And it looks like Josh just has... No, there is a forest. Okay, I hate those lands. But there is a forest, so he is able to cast the Fine Broker next turn.
He is able to find the Fine Broker, but he is going to be taking some damage in the meanwhile.
He's going to take a total of 4 here because these 2 creatures should be in front of Taijik, and if we're not, I don't know what we're doing. What is happening? Josh has double strike. Taijik's a 3/2.
Josh is nervously thinking about how he can possibly win this game.
Please block Taijik. I don't understand why there's so much thought.
And, like, the thing you gotta love about Josh is
Thank
that
you.
he just, like, sees these very obvious lines and goes, but maybe.
But what if it's wrong? Importantly here, though, this mill 6 means that this Fine Broker is going to be a lot better. We're going to have a lot more cards to choose from.
Alright.
So if Vraska, another Fine Broker went in there, nothing else that really matters all that much. Picks up a Guild Gate, but I'm pretty sure there's a forest. It might be a swamp. I have no clue.
That's a swamp. So,
Feels bad, man.
it feels real bad looking at your Fine Broker there. And,
Can't cast that. That's 3 swamps.
so also things I'd like to point out. So Josh very confidently goes for the card that he can't cast, but then when there's the very obvious line, he's like, nah,
Oh, yeah.
none of that, please.
He'll overthink things that are obvious, but then just make plays that no one can understand. So we see Ritual Suit is going to take care of the Swiftblade Vindicator because Josh is like, well, we have to play a spell, right?
That's so that's a line of thought a lot of people get tricked into. You gotta be doing something in Magic. You can't just pass. What are you, a madman?
Here's a Legion War Boss.
If only you had a Ritual Suit.
Man, I really wish we had a Ritual Suit. Josh, you're going to go ahead and pick up, looks like a Izoni, going to be a little a ways away from casting that one, and now he has no plays.
Josh very confidently went for the play last turn, which means he didn't play the tap plan, which means he now has played the tap plan this turn.
I really just wish we had Ritual Suit.
Yeah, that would be real neat. You'd be 11 life.
12. We took 1 damage from the War Boss. Oh, no, yeah, we would be at 11 because the War Boss would have came into play.
Yeah.
Well, there's Shalai. This is getting harder.
This is getting a lot harder.
We have a lot of creatures for Izoni. Hopefully there's not a Path of Metal.
Unfortunately, he doesn't have a Finality in hand, and he also does not have the 6th mana in hand.
Ooh, Dusk Legion Zealot.
That's not what you want to be doing at this point.
Findbroker can find the 6th land.
They can, and then you're just hoping to draw into the Finality next turn.
Yep.
I guess that might be what you're left with.
I mean, that's his best line. What are you getting, Josh? Good sweet lord. You need to do not... Boy. You need to confirm your 6th land. You can't win without it. He also bin double find finality.
Huh. Importantly, it was land double find finality, right?
No, I'm pretty sure it was it was a Glowspore Shaman.
Okay.
But we definitely should have grabbed that like Memorial to Folly out of our graveyard or something there and just played it.
Oh, that's another War Boss.
Hoo-wee. I think he's looking through and saying like, how many board clears do I have left? Not enough.
Is Josh dead this turn?
Probably.
So he blocks...
I'm dead.
He blocks 2 2/2s, and then he takes 2 5, so he's not dead.
Yeah, so the War Boss will be able to mentor onto one of the goblins. Stitcher's Flyer goes in front of either a 1/1 or a 2/2, depending on how greedy Josh is. Findbroker goes in front of the War Boss. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 at least coming across, potentially 8 depending on Josh's blocks. Looks like we're going to go ahead and block for the 7.
Yep.
So Josh will fall to 3, and there's no outs.
No.
He can't Ritual Suit this board. He doesn't have land 6 or the Find Finality, so he can't do either of those. Yeah, there's just nothing that Josh can play because of the way that he sequenced this game. So he would be at 2 less life, so he'd be at 1 if he made the other play, notably.
That is an important point. If he had made the other play of holding onto the Ritual Suit?
So holding the Ritual Suit's a different discussion. What I'm talking about is Find Brokering into a land.
Okay, yes.
It would have been slightly different. But here we see Supplier going to mill Vraska land. Josh going to go ahead and do 2
shock
damage
himself, and that's game.
Yep.
Alrighty then. Well, now we're going to get to see Josh again. Nope.
Yep.
We're done with Josh.
Nope.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, we're going in round 3. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and see him against Jake, who is going to be on Golgari aggro. Same color combination, slightly different here.
Notably, this is mono green aggro with Assassin's Trophy and a black-based sideboard. And
yes.
The most interesting thing that I see looking at this deck list is the fact that there aren't 4 Vine Mares in the main deck.
Yeah, that is very interesting. Of note is...
Is this a 5-0 list?
No.
Okay.
This is a list that someone had put up in an article they wrote the other day. And most of the lists they put together seemed fairly solid. The only 2 double Vine Mares does seem a little questionable, but otherwise it seemed like a solid base.
Just playing District Guide in this type of deck in general seems questionable to me.
That is the card that I kind of didn't realize was in the list. But no, the main parts of the deck are all here, though. You have your aggressive 1-drops in the form of Llanowar Elves, which allows you to play your 3-drops on curve. And
this guy's trying to get you to say his name again. The bottom there. You're not going to do it.
All right. So the Most interesting card to be added to this deck from the new set, I think, would be the Nelhide Ferox here. This is just a very big man.
It
just
is
the biggest man.
him large.
Like, why is this man so big?
No, but in all honesty, this card is actually very powerful. I've played a couple games against it. It is impressive how good it is. It's so strong with the actual best card in the deck.
Which is going to be Pelt Collector.
It is definitely Pelt Collector.
Yeah, Pelt Collector, another card that this card's really strong.
I am hype for Modern Zoo being playable.
Yeah, I saw that Modern Zoo list. That list is very interesting and definitely a topic for another day.
Very excited.
That's actually something I wouldn't mind to bring on the stream at some point.
Oh no, I will play. You hand me that, I will play it. I used to have Green Red Zoo foiled.
Okay. But no, this card very strong. 1-mana 1/1 that progressively gets bigger as the game goes out, and has a decent amount of synergy in the deck, being as you have big creatures. That's it. But the fact that you just have all these efficient creatures and you get that you can easily splash in your removal spells makes me think that this deck has a lot of room to do well.
No, this deck is powerful. It has very fast starts. If you ever have a start on like Pelt Collector into Thorn Lieutenant into Steel Leaf Champion, and they're killing your like Steel Leaf Champion, and you still have this Pelt Collector that's now a 4/4.
Yeah.
There's just so many things that this deck just keeps doing.
Yeah, no. This deck has it seems like green right now has some of the best efficient creatures in the format.
Green-white.
Green-white, yes.
Yeah.
But that does kind of bring up the point where when you're looking at these cards like Thorn Lieutenant, Pelt Collector, Steel Leaf Champion, Nelhide Ferox, it does bring up your point where you brought in the Desert Guide is the notable standout here.
This is like, what's this idiot doing?
Yeah.
What's he?
So your curve tops out at technically 12, but your curve tops out at 4, realistically speaking.
Yeah.
So you don't really need to guarantee that 4th land drop. It does help you curve into your Nelhide Ferox and Vine Mare decently well, but you're already running 24 lands, so it feels like this card is definitely the card that if you want to bring this into more competitive format, I wouldn't want to be playing this.
One card I want to talk about that just seems like kind of a weird card to beat. What happened here?
What happened is I accidentally saved it without clicking the thing.
What have you done? Is the Kral Harpooner. This is a weird card that I wouldn't expect to be in a main deck of the deck.
Yeah, I mean, it's a 2-mana 3/2. And late game it can give a decent little buff to your creature, but I could certainly see this.
Not what this card does. When it enters play, you choose up to one target creature with flying you don't control. It gets +X/+0 until end of turn, where X is the number of creature cards in your graveyard, and then the Harpooner fights the fire.
Okay then. My B. It's interesting.
It is a 2-mana 3/2 with reach that in the late game can be sorcery speed plummet.
Yeah. No, this card probably gets the axe. This is definitely a very rough list.
If your opponent is on like the mono blue deck and they have like a Siren Storm Tamer on one, and you just play this, and you're like, gotcha.
That is fair.
Kill your creature.
It's not really fair, but it's a thing.
No, it's perfectly fair.
Sure. All right. That's it. I think
that's really all we have to talk about it. I definitely think that green-black is going to be one of the predominant deck types in the coming format. And the thing about it is I'm not sure what type. There are multiple different green-black decks. There's a deck like what Josh is playing, which is more
mid-rangey value
creatures sacrifice-based. And then there's like an even more mid-rangey deck that's focused on like explore and the find brokers.
Yeah, and I'm even kind of a fan of, I've seen a couple of junk lists that have done well, and I actually like the white splash.
Pretty much just splashing the knight, right?
Yeah. Slashing that knight, but I think that slashing that third color gives you a little bit more reach in some matchups, and it's mostly free.
Yeah, no, it's pretty much free. But yeah, and then you even have at the other end of it, when we're talking about this mid-range, you have these type of decks, these aggro decks, that also just seem that they're going to be very powerful in this format. Yeah. I think green and black just got the best cards.
I would agree. Until proven otherwise, I think that green and black does appear to be the strongest guild as far as cards that we have to work with right now.
And I think they just wanted to insinuate like Vraska's role.
That's fair.
It's from the story perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and you guys are ready to play whenever you're ready.
All right. Now, this is a matchup you said has got me very interesting, and I have to agree with looking at the deck composition from both sides.
Oh, I've had pretty good games in this matchup. A lot of them come down to Vinemare, and if you're able to stick a card like the Eldest Reborn against it, or if you're able to get Fine Finalities off in good manners.
Yes.
That's what I found being the most important parts. There's some interesting discussions here. Elvish Rejuvenator plays a very interesting role against Vinemare as the only creature you play in your main deck that can block it.
Yeah, it sure does that. Vinemare, that card's real neat. It's all play previously because when Scarab God decks were running rampant, you can just go past the Scarab God real easy.
You put a You put a Vinemare in play, and you win.
But now we have a situation where just black decks are really good, so Vinemare might be good again. It's probably good again, I should say.
So Jake here looks like we're leading on Pelt Collector, and I expect to say that sentence
a lot.
Quite a lot.
Yeah, Pelt Collector is a card that definitely one of the winners from the set.
It is very, very strong. 2 mana here, going to be the Harpooner's Pelt Collector, going to get a little bit larger. Harpooner's being a 3/2 is an interesting note, as it dying does also grow the Pelt Collector a second time.
Yes.
The notable differences from Pelt Collector to say something like Experiment 1 is Collector's always checking power. It doesn't care about toughness.
Yes, and it doesn't have the stapled on ability of regeneration.
Oh, thank you. I would hope it does not.
Well, I was just clarifying the difference between it and Experiment 1.
Yeah, no,
this
I
card would be a
understand.
nightmare if it had regeneration stapled on.
Did you play any during that standard format?
Yes.
Experiment 1 having that ability mattered a lot.
Yeah. No, Gatecrash, Ravnica, Innistrad, etc. That was the most fun I've had in Standard.
The Collector going to go ahead and trade here with the Glowstore Shaman. Harpooner's coming in for 3. Looks like just a Llanowar Elves and a pass, so Jake doesn't have anything powerful to do.
No, it looks like he kept a hand based off of the powerful 1 and 2 he had. I also see a Vinemare in his hand.
Looks like Rejuvenator going to find an Overgrown Tomb. Arena's asking him if you would like to pay 2 or have it enter tapped.
What?
It asks off of Rejuvenator if you want to pay 2.
Okay.
Because it is an option. You can pay 2. It does nothing.
Sure.
But you can pay 2. Jake going to go ahead and take a draw. Looks like an Assassin's Trophy picked up.
And the Rejuvenator being a 1/1, Jake here should just swing in with his Llanowar Elf and his 3/2.
I like the trade.
Yeah. And holding the Vinemare here is correct because if Jake were to play that main phase 1, it might influence Josh's decision on whether or not to block.
Oh, definitely. Vinemare going to come down, but very importantly, Josh did get that ramp, so a card like Fine Finality would be able to clean up the board if he's able to get to it. And it looks like 5 and 6 in his lands are in hand. So what I'd like to see here is Chupacabra going to go ahead and take down that Harpooner, and then the Vinemare afterwards going to fall to the Fine Finality. But here we see Stitcher Splire looked at milled over the Eldest Reborn and a couple lands. Harpooner going to bite the dust. And if Jake progresses more to this board, he's going to get blown out by a card like Fine Finality.
Yes.
5 damage coming across. And there's a Ferox. Okay, so that beats Fine Finality.
Yep. Fine Finality just gives them -4/-4 until end of turn.
Correct.
Okay. So yes, that will stick around, and it's a pretty big body.
He does have a Vraska's Contempt, so Josh can stick around for another turn.
Now, one small thing of note here is Jake did not play his 5th land. I believe his hand is just 2 lands right now.
I believe there's an Assassin's Trophy hanging up.
Okay, then if that's the case, then yeah, that's actually correct.
So we're paying for the Ferox, and then we're going to cast a Vraska's Contempt. I'm not a big fan of that sequence.
So it gains you 2 life, but does put you down.
Oh no, I like playing Vraska's Contempt, but I would have liked playing it on Jake's attack.
Yeah, okay.
There's not a lot of reason. There's no more Blossoming Defense or any cards similar.
All right, and it looks like Jake here just drawing land. Well, he's going to deploy that, and it's going to make the finality slightly better, but not that much better.
Yep, Fine Finale going to go ahead and happen here. Looks like we found a Find Broker from Josh's side. So he is now in the point where he's going to be able to start cleaning this game up. And importantly, there is an Eldest Reborn in the graveyard, so Find Broker is going to be able to find a powerful card.
Yes.
Alright, so we're going to be passing back over to Jake's side. Hopefully he picks up a creature for his sake, but it looks like all he has is either a land or an Assassin's Trophy up in hand.
Yep, it's an Assassin's Trophy.
So here is the Find Broker.
All right.
And I hope we're picking up the Eldest Reborn. This is also fine.
I think that's arguably better, actually.
There's one card that makes it not. A Vine Mare off the top.
Yeah. It makes green-black tokens?
Yep.
Okay.
If Jake were to draw a Vine Mare right there, he would just win the game.
Okay, but he did not. And that means Josh is going to have more than enough time.
Yep, so here's Izoni. Izoni's going to make a plethora of tokens.
Yep, and it means that a Vine Mare from the opponent's side here on any following turns won't be fast enough because Josh can't just gain life.
Yep. 9 tokens, it looks like, again. And then an attack for 4.
Yep. I don't think Jake has any real outs
Nope.
at this point, unfortunately for him.
Game has completed. Looks like we picked up just another land, and Jake concedes.
Unfortunate for Jake there. He had a pretty decent start there, but it looks like he kind of fizzled out there once we start getting.
It's kind of the way that I felt this match works.
Yes.
You get into this late game battle, and the deck with board clears wins game 1.
Mm-hmm.
Games 2 and 3 is a little bit different. So it looks like we're starting here from Josh's side.
Yes.
So from Josh's side, what I would like to see, and this matchup's a little weird, I would like to see the Ritual Suits, the Assassin Trophy, and the Vraska. You have to expect them to go larger.
Yes.
And if you're expecting them to go larger, you have to bring in cards that can interact with them going a bit larger, but you also still have to respect the fact that they play these very powerful 3s.
Yeah, you kind of have to respect their early to mid game as opposed to just more respecting their early game.
So yeah, I would like those 4 cards to come in, and for this matchup, I just don't like Stitcher Supplier at all.
Okay, entirely reasonable.
Whole 4 set of those would come out, in my opinion.
All right, so now let's look at the sideboard of this deck here.
There's a lot to look at here.
So we have the Vine Mares being a card that you bring in those other 2 for sure here. Vivian Reed, is that a card you're interested in?
Yes.
Okay, then.
Vivian Reed's abilities are very good. You are looking at playing that longer game, and when you're talking about these mid-range or control decks, you want to attack them at as many different angles as possible.
Yes.
Vivian Reed being able to draw extra creatures for you, destroy cards like the Eldest Reborn, and also just one of those game-winning emblems. It is, of course, a 5-mana Planeswalker, and as we've seen in the last year, 5-mana Planeswalkers are always starts at 5, +1, -3, -8.
Yep, they are pretty standard in that way, but a lot of times when they're good, they're good.
Mm.
This is probably going to be one of those cases where it is fairly strong. So what do you dislike from the main board here? I'm kind of leaning towards...
District Guide.
Oh, yeah. The card that's bad.
I would take the District Guides out. I would also take the Galtas out and bring these Fine Finalities in.
Yep, I think that's entirely reasonable.
And that's where I am.
Yep, I have no disagreements there, so I'm going to go ahead and
All right, we'll go ahead and send it
do
back down.
that.
You guys are ready to start once you're done? So seeing that first game, how do you think this matchup normally fares?
I feel like it probably leans more towards the mid-range deck, at least game 1s.
You just have a lot of clean answers, but those games 2 and 3, they do start throwing a lot more questions at you, and it becomes a lot more difficult.
I do feel like if Jake had, say, for instance, drawn another Vine Mare, that game might have played out differently, though.
Yes, very much.
And I feel like that it may be a matchup where you just have one card that matters more than the other cards.
I'm not spending that much on it.
I'm sorry for that can opening sound.
No, you're fine. I wasn't looking at
fellas.
you. Looks like Dusk Legion Zealots were coming out from Josh's side, which it's either that or Stitcher Supplier, I think, as one of the weaker cards to come out in this type of matchup. But I just really like. I just feel like the engine that you're working on needs a card like Dusk Legion Zealot.
I would agree. So, I mean, it should be fine, but it's probably a little better if he takes out the supplier here.
So both players shuffling up and getting ready for game number 2. So I wouldn't be surprised if Jake took this one. Being on the play is just huge. Being able to do stuff like Llanowar Elves into the Steel Leaf Champion. Josh not having a lot of 2-mana answers for a card like that. Not playing cast downs, anything like that. So that's going to make it a lot more difficult for him. But on the play from Josh's side, it definitely gets a lot better for him.
Yes. So,
Question.
yes.
Do you think it's free enough in this format to play cards like Thought Erasure, the 2-mana Thoughtseize effect, in green-black decks?
That's a tricky one. Your mana base is mostly free here, but I definitely want to play in a deck like Jake has.
No, I'm talking more from like Josh's side.
No, I was just kind of starting off my statement with that, since green-black is a wide blanket here. It depends on how much you're actually worried about getting from their hand, being as Assassin's Trophy is kind of a good catch-all right now. And I have to wonder if there's enough that you're worried about that you can't be handled with that you're willing to make your mana base slightly worse.
I can understand that. It just seems like an interesting discussion point that the mana, we are getting into these Ravnica mana bases, and you played a lot. You said you played a lot during that time.
Yes.
I played a ton during that time, and I kind of know that these mana bases are relatively free.
Yeah.
And
3 colors are usually free, yes.
I just think it's a discussion that's at least worth having.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that it might get a little bit more free once you have all of the shocklands to play around with here. Being as right now you're missing 1 for bug, and I think that might be the more important one possibly.
Yeah, not having breeding pool kind of sucks. Josh to start here just on double Golgari Guildgate, gonna go ahead and play a Stitcher Supplier. Looks like he milled Land Vraska. From Jake's side, 2 Llanowar Elves and a Thorn Lieutenant. So if there's something powerful like Vinemare here, he's very far ahead.
I see a Nelhide Ferox hiding away in his hand.
I'll see a Crawl Harpooner. That's the powerful card in his hand, right?
Yeah.
The Crawl Harpooner.
Alright, so Jake here considering whether or not he wants to get in that 1 point of damage with the Llanowar Elf. That will probably turn into 2 damage because I'll just get blocked by the Stitcher Supplier, and then 2-3 will get through.
Yeah.
It looks like instead he's just going to not do that and get in for 2.
Josh is going to go ahead and jump right in front of that creature with the Supplier. Another Vraska, a Moment of Craving, and a Glowspore Shaman being flipped over. I think Josh is valuing Moment of Craving a little too highly. When you look at this green-black deck, other than the first 3 creatures, and I don't expect there to be District Guides anymore, it doesn't do anything.
Yeah. And
Woohoo! District Guide plus Crawl Scavengers, there we go.
so, yeah, that's a play.
Is it? So if Josh is able to hit land 4 and have a Ritual suit, he's pretty good. He's doing good.
There is still that Ferox in Jake's hand. So Josh will have to take a little bit of damage before then, but he does have that to kind of help out a little bit.
Glowspore Shaman here, going to mill 3 lands over, put a swamp back on top. He wanted to go ahead and keep one of those, it looks like. I do kind of agree with you there, War Dog. I was just throwing out thoughts. A card like Kitesail Freebooter might actually be a powerful card for Josh's side of the board to be playing.
Yeah, I would agree. It's a fairly decent creature considering you're already kind of playing like derpy creatures with good effects. And it does have flying, which means it can block more things. And if your opponent wants to kill it, they have to waste a spell on it. If they're not doing it in combat, that is. So I think that is probably worth a consideration in this type of list.
So here I'm wondering, so I mean if Josh has a Ritual suit, he's blocking. There's no way he's not. Looks like 6 mana going to pump the Thorn Lieutenant. Jake taking a little bit of an aggressive line there, hoping that Josh doesn't have anything power to follow it up. I can't get a great look on seeing if he does have it, but if land 4 comes down and there's a Ritual, Jake's in trouble.
Jake is not in a great spot, and I'm pretty sure... No, it looks like he just has a Vraska's Contempt
And
here.
a Chupacabra. There's a black card in the very middle that I can't exactly make out, but I don't think it's it because I think it would already be in the graveyard if it was. Thorn Lieutenant going to die to the Chupacabra, but I believe that brings a 1/1 along with it, even if it's an ability.
Whenever Thorn Lieutenant becomes target of a spell or ability.
Yep. So the Lieutenant going to go ahead and make it looks like a book. Yep. It makes a small book.
Yep.
Oh no, that's a Johnny Vengeant.
That's a Johnny Vengeant.
They put a Johnny
that looks
Vengeant
like a
into
book.
play.
That's a fairly strong card.
That's a fairly strong card.
Every time it gets targeted, you just...
a Johnny Vengeant.
Whoops.
It's balanced because if it happens a second time, you just legend roll them.
So,
No, there's definitely red on that Johnny.
you play Boros Charm to give it indestructible. And then you Wait, it's only spells your opponent controls?
Yeah.
Ah, shoot.
Also, Burrow Storm doesn't target when it gives indestructible.
No, it doesn't, but you give it indestructible, then you target, you get into Johnny Vengeant. Then you target it with Johnny Vengeant's ability, and you gain infinite life.
Sweet.
Alright, just
Good or relevant discussion.
just slam
Pouch
it.
Collector.
Okay.
Why are we playing the creatures that died to ritual? Please draw a ritual. Miracle it. What is it? Vraska. Just as good.
He definitely should have went ahead and played that Ferox here. He has to, even though the Chupacabra's played last turn, he still has to respect that Ritual of Suit here.
You have that. It's just the Ferox is the safest play.
Birdsy3, thank you for the follow.
The Ferox, Josh doesn't have any way to clear it unless he has like a cast down effect. And I feel like if there was a cast down effect, he would have already cast it at some point. He can't Chupacabra down a Ferox because that's how Ferox works. And he can't do really anything to it. Vraska here is going to come in and kill down the Steel Leaf Champion, puts another counter on this Pelt Collector. Or not. I guess we just don't know how Pelt Collector works. It's fair. It's a relatively new card. Looks like I saw a gigantic dinosaur, the draw from Jake, so we can Ferox plus that. Okay, Izareth the Awakener is a card that I saw in one of the 5-0 lists. I'm not impressed by it. The primary reason behind it is just the card requires you to invest a 3-mana threat, untap with it, attack, and then pay mana.
Yeah, it's one of those cards that I just dislike in mid-range decks just because it does stuff on attack.
It is definitely a mid-range breaker, but I feel like that's all it is.
Yeah.
And there aren't enough matches that it's going to be good enough to play.
All right, now, Andrew, is there a way to handle the board but also handle this 12-12?
No.
Yeah. Okay.
Once again, Josh is playing a game that he can't possibly win.
So, yeah, no,
There's the Golgari Guildgate 5th land. Here it is.
So Josh, pretty sure he's going to just go ahead and take the L here. Even if he has Vraska's Contempt for the Galta, he is still taking more than lethal on the ground.
Yeah,
here.
he currently has 8 damage in play without the Galta, so there's no line here, and Josh is going to go ahead and concede and move on to game 3.
Okie dokie then. Well, that was an interesting game there from Jake's side.
Yep, it's kind of what I was expecting, that Jake on the play is going to be able to overrun just with the effects that cards like Llanowar Elves put on these games. And even with him making a lot of misplays that could have led to Josh getting a win there, it just didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
Interestingly, while Josh was scrolling through his sideboard, I did see the Eldest Reborn in there. So I guess he's leaning on Find Finality as being his only answer to a card like Windmare.
Yes. I think that his rationale there being that the Edict effect is not necessarily the strongest against a deck that goes so wide.
So while that is a fact for it, you actually are able to mitigate your games long enough to where the Reanimate effect makes it to where they can't ever attack with a Vindmare.
Yeah. Once again, not necessarily disagreeing with you, just kind of I like to try to bring up as to why someone might be making a line of thought.
No, I understand. I was just giving the rebuttal.
Yeah, no. A little...
What do you think of Plaguecrafter?
Plaguecrafter? Oh boy, that's the card that's in the sideboard, isn't it?
That's the Fleshbag Marauder that also hits Planeswalkers.
Oh yeah, that card's real... a card. It's another way for green-black decks to hit Teferi, and it's a fairly decent just like effect in matchups where you think that paying 3 mana to make them sacrifice a permanent is worth it.
You know what's a really funny thing about Plaguecrafter?
What's that?
Is so if your opponent plays it as their only creature and you kill it in response, they have to discard a card.
Yes. It is something, and yeah.
Looks like Josh happy enough with his 7. Jake also seems good, so we're going to move on into it. Looks like double tap landed the opener from Josh, though. And
it looks like Jake didn't have a creature on 1 here, which isn't the best for him here. But he does have one of his better 2-drops here in the form of Thorn Lieutenant.
Mm-hmm. I'm surprised to see Josh not moving back to his sideboard at all after the way that game went, because of the fact that Moment of Craving never looked like it was a playable card.
Yeah, that is something that's a little questionable there from Josh's side. It may have just been that he didn't even necessarily think about resideboarding, as that is something a lot of times I see people do, is they just kind of don't think, like they think they're done with it once.
Yeah, it's happened. We don't have to do it anymore. No, I've gotten very much into the habit of when I'm in competitive REL events, just making sure I'm shuffling my 15 in and taking 15 out every time.
Yeah. I'm very used to changing my sideboards between being on the play and being on the draw, so it's something I certainly don't overlook.
Are you happy with the Ritual Suit 2-for-1, or do you think the Chupacabra is a better play here?
I think that the Chupacabra is perfectly fine here because it just leaves Jake with 2 derpy 1/1s, and I think you get more value later on with the Ritual Suit. Though, now if you don't have any other answers for Vindmare, you could be in some amount of trouble.
Yep, and there is the horse going to come down and put Josh on a 4-turn clock. So Josh has the fine finality, so we have to start hitting towards our lands. I'm not sure if the 5th land is, or the 6th land is in hand, so he's pulling forward the Dusk Legion Zealot to try to hit it. And there it is, but it comes into play tapped, and Josh is getting punished for playing his land already this turn.
Oh, man. So, one thing, and we kind of gave Josh a hard time for, like, overthinking something earlier. A lot of times just figure out the lines you're doing before you do things.
Yep. Make your lines, think about the board state, what you need to be doing, and then do stuff like draw cards.
Like, believe me, playing a land may seem like the most irrelevant part of your turn, but if you're playing something that draws you a card or might get you a land in your hand, consider if there's a possibility you could possibly get punished for playing that land.
Yep, you might just have to make a slightly different line. Steel Leaf Champion going to come down from Jake's side. Can't get a good look at the rest of the cards in his hand, as the green sleeves as the green cards makes it a little difficult.
Yep.
But Josh getting rewarded for his play. He top decks an Overgrown Tomb.
Now, if he hadn't have top decked that Overgrown Tomb here, he would be facing a large amount of damage.
I think he would have to waste a Ritual Suit on this board.
Yes.
But yeah, Josh should be shocking in the fine finality and casting it here.
Yeah,
It's
like,
just simply his best play.
you can't really wait around. And
Wonder if Jake's going to fall into any traps here.
I'd like from Jake's side just blocking the Chupacabra with your 5/4 and blocking the 1/1 with your 1/1.
Actually, I don't like blocking the Chupacabra because you know that Moment of Craving was in Josh's deck.
That is correct. I forgot that we saw that.
So I like how Jake took the 2. He's not getting aggroed out in any way.
Yeah.
Picked up a Galta for the turn after the clear. So here's just another Steel Leaf Champion, and Josh has cards like that covered for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like Izoni probably going to be the play. I don't think it's a huge Izoni, but Chupacabra comes off, and that's definitely better. There it is. Takes down that Steel Leaf Champion, and now he has access to next turn being able to Memorial plus another Chupacabra.
Yeah, that feels fairly strong here. And Jake, unfortunately, just kind of put on the back foot again, and you're just playing his...
There's the District Guide. There he
his
is.
District Guide.
And the Crowl Harpooner.
And the Crowl Harpooner.
Josh has, I believe, the Ritual Suit still in hand, so he should be able to clean up Jake's side.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like he picked up a Mona Craving as his draw. So what I would like to see is I would like to see the suit just cleaning up the board, not letting a card like Galta ever come down.
Yeah, straining something like Galta in your opponent's hand here feels fairly strong, and if the best they can do on 5 mana is play a 2/2 and a 3/2, you are probably fine to just use your removal spell now.
Chupacabra going to come in. So if Jake takes a block here, the Moment of Craving cleans up. Or, I mean, you're pretty safe to just play Ione if a block happens.
Mm-hmm. I feel like there's a good chance Jake just takes the damage here. He's not getting threatened that hard, and he cares a little bit about his board staying intact.
So I want to make a note. Jake not playing the land that he found off the District Guide last turn is actually a misplay, because it means that if Jake were to top deck a land and the board doesn't change, he can't play Galta.
Yes, that is correct.
Best draw for Jake is something like a Nullhide Ferox or Vine Mare or anything like that, because they make they're good plays, and he did draw the land, so he's getting punished in that way. But one of the 5-power creatures would make Galta cheap enough to play.
Yes. So had he been able to play the 12/12 Trampler here, that would be fairly decent, though Josh would be able to handle it before long.
Yeah, he has 7 mana, so he could Memorial plus Choops it. Or no,
Memorial
that's an 8 mana play.
Yes.
So 2 mana here. Not sure what Josh is thinking about. We're going to see Moment of Craving take down the Harpooner.
Sure, that's fine enough.
5 mana left over. Stitcher Supplier going to come in, putting Rejuvenator, another Supplier, and a land in the graveyard.
Alright, and now from Josh's side, he feels like he's firmly in the driver's seat.
Oh no, he is in the driver's seat, and everything should be attacking every turn.
Yeah. But he is in the tank about it.
Yep, he is definitely making a decision here. But yep, we see 4 bugs and the Chupacabra coming in. I'm surprised to not see Izoni. Yep, there's the 2/3 joining the fray. There's no real pump spells that green's on anymore.
Yep, and Jake here is going to make the easiest block, which is block an insect, but that insect gets sacrificed to Josh's side here to gain a life, draw a card, and Jake here just kind of left in a bad spot. He doesn't really have any great comeback cards in his deck.
No, he does not. I mean, that's the downfall of playing an aggro deck, is you can get early good positions, but you will fall behind.
Well, sorry, if he brought in the Fine Finality, he can handle this board.
Ooh, that is true. If those did come in, which I hope they did, but I'm not sure they did at this point.
If they came in, he could handle the board, but he had to do it that turn because if Josh is able to untap, then the value he gets off of Zoni is just too strong.
Rejuvenator picked up here for Josh for his turn. We see another attack of everything. Not sure where the guide's going to go. Looks like it's going to block the Chupacabra.
I'm not entirely sure where it's going. He's just going to block an insect here.
Yep. Josh going to go ahead and sacrifice it.
Yep, that puts Josh up to 17 life, draws him a card, and Jake here going to go and fall down to 3 life.
Yep, so there is the Rejuve. Going to look at her top 5. Looks like there was a land already in the first card. I think he only picked up the top 4.
So Jake here picking up a Ferox and means he can also play the Galta here.
Makes it 8 cheaper. He still has 4. Yep, so he will be able to play a Galta.
And then he can theoretically block up to 3 creatures and theoretically survive.
Yep, but the Memorial to just...
Yes, it does nullify that entire line of play.
Assuming Josh sees it.
Yes, which, given all facts, might be asking a bit much.
He has a ritual suit. He might cast that.
He sure might.
I would hope not, because then he'd be left with a dog.
Yeah.
The
But
dog.
he would kill the 3/2. I mean the 2/2.
Yep.
All
All right, so there's the Memorial. Going to go ahead and pick up a Chupacabra, I would assume, and that's going to kill Galta.
And
That is
will-
my favorite thing. That this, like, very hungry dog just kills this gigantic dinosaur.
All right, so looks like we're gonna go have Jake take a 1-2 loss here, but now we're gonna get to see him go against Joe, who is gonna be in Naya tokens. Now he did have this list here with us last week, but he has since made some changes after playing around with it more in Arena and in proxy lists.
Yep, so we see a decent amount of changes. One of the main changes that I believe he's mentioned a few times now is the fact that he took History of Benalia out of his deck and instead replaced it with the Jungleborn Pioneer.
Yes.
I'm not a fan.
So that is entirely reasonable not be a fan of. Taking out History Benalia, the best token producer in Standard, arguably out of your Standard deck, is a bit weird.
It just
But
isn't. It's just such a powerful card in longer games. And while I understand trying to streamline your deck more towards what it's trying to do, if the primary function of your deck is to just like incrementally make more and more creatures, shouldn't, as we said before, a card like Amara be Shauna?
yes, I have to agree. So I feel like the little bit of value you get off of having the Jungleborn Pioneer immediately have 2 tokens in play, I don't feel like it's as strong. It's just having that recursive kind of threat that the History Benalia has going on.
That also just makes a lot of damage on its own. I know you don't really play any other knights, but I feel like you could just main deck your Cavaliers and then lean a little bit more into History Benalia instead of leaning away from it and also taking some of the Cavaliers out of the board.
Yes, but it does look like this deck is just trying to, I'm going to use Joe's words here, not mine, play more like a combo deck and less like a token deck so much, in the way that you're just trying to create a big board and then use effects like Heroic Enforcements, Pride of the Conquerors, and the... God, I did the thing again. And the Loxodon to go ahead and kind of make a really quick and big board and just try to kill your opponent
Please let
quickly.
go of the mouse.
Huh? Oh.
You can keep talking.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I completely understand what you're doing. Saying it as more of a combo deck means that it's going to be able to threaten lethal on players much quicker, potentially. But I just don't think that making your deck slightly weaker, implementing more 1/1 creatures
Yes.
into that strategy, is really what you want to be doing in a Path of Metal Goblin Chain Whirler format.
Yeah, I do question it, though apparently he's had decent success with this list. Not necessarily saying that is enough of a justification considering we are early in the format and most things can do well considering the format's still developing. And people might be playing derpier decks that are less suited to handling the quick threat of all these tokens right now, but I feel like going forward, having more closer to a slightly grindier build might be better.
I can understand that. I just like the decks that can go a little bit longer in this format.
Yeah.
I mean, you even look at like the Boros decks, and those decks have a lot of staying power in longer matchups. And going all in doesn't seem like what this format should be doing.
Yeah, and it looks like right now, Joe really the only ways to really continue the game into the late game is his Legion's Landing if they flip, and his March of the Multitudes can theoretically be good late game. The only problem being is if your board gets cleared, then they're not that great.
There's less there's less multitudes if your boards get cleared, and that's why I like a card like the Conclave Cavalier being in the main deck.
Yes.
It's just such a powerful card, and we saw some of the games that it played in, and it was very, very good in those games. I don't want to just sit here ragging on a lot of his decisions, but I think that the direction that he's attempting to take his deck is incorrect.
Okay. I'm not going to hard use the incorrect word. I'm going to say I am not. This isn't the way I would take it.
Correct.
And I am curious to see exactly how it plays out. There are some times where a deck looks really sloppy on paper, but in practice it's really good. There are a few different examples I can think of, but none that I'll name right now. But with that, I think we'll just go and cut over the game and let the deck speak for itself.
Y'all are good to start. So for this matchup specifically, I think he's going to have a gigantic advantage.
I would agree.
The only creature that has the keyword trample on it is Ghalta. And other than that, you have the Steel Leaf Champion. Is definitely a large threat.
Yes. The Steel Leaf Champion can be quite the problem, being as it can't be blocked by any of your creatures with power 2 or less. And seeing as most of your creatures have power 2 or less, that's kind of a problem.
Oh, wait. Pelt Collector gets trample.
Pelt Collector does get trample.
At 4 power, it gets trample.
Which is not that unreasonable, if we're being honest here.
I mean, there's no real answers for it.
Yeah.
It's pretty easy to get it that big.
Yeah, you play enough creatures with 4 or more power to continue it evolving up until that point.
You just go turn 1 Pelt Collector into turn 2 Burning Emissary, Wild Nactyl, Vexing Devil. We've got it.
The Vexing Devil thing with
Pelt
Collector is so neat.
Yeah, it's very interesting. The card is just a very interesting card, and again, as I said before, I'm very excited to play this in older formats.
Yeah.
But here I would expect Joe to be, on average, a little bit advantaged. What?
Comment, Bob. He can't. So War Dog said, "I can't believe no one is looking at my girl."
Oh.
Okay. There we go.
Those were. You see, it's just so long out. It was like 17 minutes.
17 minutes. That is a long time for your attention span to hold. I can't say anything. I have the same problem.
I was about to say. Looks like Joe's opening hand is a Boros hand, and there's an Amara in it. I'm not going to confirm or deny the statement, but that's what it kind of looked like.
And we're just going to have a game kind of like the game one with Ricky, where he's like, I got my mono white deck, and Joe's going to be like, I got my Boros deck. Looks at a hand of all green spells. Got it.
Well, he doesn't have that many green spells. This is pretty much a mono white deck.
Yeah. No, you only play Imra and Sapperling Migration along with March of the Multitudes.
Jungle-born Pioneer. You
Okay.
see, if that card was just History of Benalia, then it could be mono white.
Yes. Okay. I overlooked the
Jungle-born
Pioneer. Pioneers rode these babies everywhere. All right. So.
Now I need the stupid Merfolk token to just be a giant rock. That's hexproof. You can't touch my giant rock.
Oh man. When you think about it, the rock should really be a vehicle.
It's fair.
All right. So.
Was there like a Pioneer's Caravan in Kaladesh? There's Cultivator's
Cultivator's Caravan.
It doesn't says Pioneer.
It's
not just a bull.
I'm really happy that you were in the comments there.
It's a rock. Jake here looks like he took a mulligan down to 6. I see a Vine Mare in the hand along with some other green creatures, but I'm not sure if there's any lands past the first one, so it looks like a little bit of a risky one.
I think I see a second land. I think the bomb may just be nothing really to do in the early game.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm pretty sure that's a second land.
And while Vine Mare is very, very good in a lot of matchups, this is not one of them.
No, you're 5-3. Basically that's it. It's a 5-3 for 4.
So, last night I was watching Todd Anderson's stream, and he brought up that week 1 it might be possible that we see something like Vine Mare with an On Sarah's Wings winning or doing well. What do you think
Okay.
about that?
I think it's something you can do. All right, so that 2-3 is going to check that 2-2.
Yep, Amara looking pretty medium against Thorn Lieutenant. we are reaching.
All right, so Joe here having a really plain start to this turn.
He has a Juggleboard Pioneer.
Oh, he has the Pioneer. Oh my god.
How could he be falling behind? His Naya deck has produced a blue creature.
he cannot lose from this point. Joe appears to not have a bluefish. No,
he had it earlier.
He definitely has it.
That's not a merfolk. Is that the merfolk?
That's an octopus.
That's what it looks like.
We're going to use our imagination.
I can't confirm or deny if that's hexproof or island walk on the text.
I'm pretty sure that's a Chasm Skulker token.
Same thing. Ooh's Juggleboard Pioneer getting frisky?
I mean, he can double block here and theoretically only lose one minion.
Mm-hmm. Looks like he just took the damage. District Guide gonna come in. There it is. The guide. It's definitely better than Rejuvenator in this deck.
In this deck, yes. 100% of the time. The card does honestly feel like the most medium thing in the deck at the current moment.
So question, are there any flying creatures in Joe's deck to harpoon down? No.
No.
You can potentially harpoon down a Shalai game 2.
You can
If
potentially
somehow
do that.
Shalai is in his deck against mono green. His deck's sideboard is not good in this matchup.
The Naya tokens list?
Yeah.
Yeah,
We'll get there.
it has Justice Strikes. One Justice Strike.
I really like that card. The more I keep playing against it, the more I'm a fan of it.
I'm a huge fan of that card, honestly. Oh, that's a thing that just happened.
Yep, Loxodon came down, pumped the whole team. It looks like we're missing a 1/1 token from Amara, so we're not even using its ability. It's literally just a worse Shauna.
Yeah,
As in, it has none of the effects Shauna does.
I'm really surprised to see Joe miss that there, honestly, considering he has been playing this deck.
He has been playing it a lot, but I mean, it sounded like he was playing it on Arena.
Yeah, and it just auto handles it.
Yeah, but I mean, that's not like that big of a thing. But there is just the important part of he was also doing a lot of discussion about how much he hates Amara overall. Here's we remembered it this time. Conclave Tribunal going to go ahead and take care of the Nullhide Ferox after Joe paid. So he's able to attack. The Loxodon has no keywords, it's just a 4/4.
Just a 4/4.
So the attack is a 1-for-1 trade with one of Jake's creatures at the moment.
Yes.
So I do like the just being patient. Looks like we picked up another District Guide, though, for Jake.
That card should not be in the deck.
He is overrunning his opponent with value.
I don't really think he is.
Overrunning his opponent with value, Nathaniel.
It is replacing itself, kind of.
There is land number 5, and can't get a great look at everything that's in the hand. It looks like the Hexproof Horse and a Llanowar Elf is going to come into play. Definitely not the best thing from Jake's side to be doing.
He tapped his lands in a very specific way.
He did. He made sure we knew which one cast the Llanowar Elves. See, what I want to like commit myself to doing is every time I tap a land, tap it the direction that the color on the mana is for what I'm tapping it for.
That's such a hard thing to keep track of.
So you have to, like,
going long.
A red tapping Sacred Foundry has to be to the right or to the left.
Yeah, and then if you want to tap it white, you have to type it to the right.
And you have to denote it for everything. But here's the Heroic and Reinforcement's going to go ahead and make some soldiers and give everyone +1/+1 haste.
Yes, that card's going to do him some damage here.
So we're going to see here if Joe wants to go ahead and get frisky with the team. Do you think this is the time to start turning?
So at this point, yeah, well, Joe thinks it is.
Joe thinks it is. We're going to go ahead and remember our knight once again. So another Amar token going to come in. But yeah, Heroic Reinforcements is the card that every time I've played against it, it has been very impressive.
Yeah. No, the fact that it pumps the team and gives haste, and it also pumps out essentially 4 power the turn it comes into play, it feels not terrible.
No, it is really, really strong, and I've been surprised at just how strong it is. So Jake here looking at his best blocks. Looks like the Vine Mare going to trade with the Loxodon. Alana World is going to jump in front of the old Pioneer. Not having any of that. Looking at where District Guide and the Thorn Lieutenant want to go for the finishing of his blocks. What do you think here? What do you think your best blocks are? Are you a fan of just chump blocking the 1/1s, or do you think that anything a little bit bigger is better?
I mean, well, he's not chump blocking the 1/1s, for one.
Oh, right. It's a trade.
Yeah. I think that blocking in a way that keeps your 2/3 alive makes sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's kind of what I like the best, is blocking in a way that keeps as many of her creatures alive as possible.
I think the Vine Mare had to go underneath the 5/5 that turn,
Mm-hmm.
but it does kind of leave you in an awkward spot. Nikros the King, thank you for getting there with the subscription.
We appreciate you being here with us and hope you stay here. All right. So yeah, it looks like the Thorn Lieutenant going to go ahead and stay in play while Jake goes in and picks up a new land.
Yep, he certainly does that. He is holding half his cards in his hand upside down.
That
half
land's
his lands
still
are upside down. It's
Hey, we can disregard.
God, why are there so many? The card's so bad.
The Sea Leaf Champion, it's unblockable effectively. It's not anymore.
Not
There's a bunch
anymore,
of
'cause
threes.
no, that's not having a great time right now from Jake's side.
Then an Overgrown Tomb, he could have shocked it and played the District Guide. If we're making this play, why didn't we District Guide into Sea Leaf Champion?
Yeah, I don't know.
If we're playing the guide, we gotta like use it for its value.
Yeah, like if you're not getting value, why are you even playing the value
Yeah,
card?
why are we even playing the guide?
Jake's just kind of going, can I win? Can I live? Is there a point? The answer's probably no.
There's no purpose here. Thorn Lieutenant, he's taking a look at exactly what he wants to do. Are we coming in? I 100% guarantee you that there was no life gain from any of the tokens that should have had life gain.
No, he did.
He did?
He did.
Ooh, we took 2. That's an aggressive attack from Jake.
That is the most aggressive attack you could possibly make. He
has another heroic reinforcements.
That's lethal. Wow. Jake is not having a good time.
No, he is not. So we're going to go ahead and move into sideboard. So which side are we going to go ahead and start on here?
I guess we're just going to go and start with the Naya tokens list here.
All right. So for sideboard here, we see not a lot that I really want in this matchup. I like the Justice Strike as it's a clean answer to cards like Galta, cards like Nullhide Ferox, and
Steel Leaf Champion.
Steel Leaf Champion. It just kind of kills really everything you need it to except for the Vine Mare, and you have that card
Except
on lockdown.
The Vine Mare, and it can't kill the 2/3, and that's about it.
Yep. Nothing that's all that big of a deal. So I would kind of like bringing those in. What the heck does Hotly do?
Hotly. So
What is this card's text?
it does a lot of Hotly things. So you gain life, gold, grace, and
this
power among creatures you control. You create a dinosaur, and then you can give something damaged, where X is the amount of creature.
You see, this 5-mana Planeswalker came out before we got 5-mana Planeswalkers that were playable.
Yes.
Where they say plus draw a card, -3 do something that's destructive, and -8 win the game.
Yeah, that's fair. So yeah, I think that you got your Justice Strike, and
Do you think the Cavalier's good in this matchup?
it's probably fine. It's a good
That's
blocker.
Vigilance, right?
It's vigilant. It blocks the Steel Life Champion, and it's a decent body for 4 mana.
Yeah, I like the 4-mana 4/4, and I like the Justice Strike, so I like those 3 cards. You could potentially bring Knight of Autumn in for kind of the same argument.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest, I just think those should be in our main deck, but
Yeah.
I understand going really heavy on the tokens theme.
And hot take from the sideboard here. How about we take out the Pioneer?
But the Pioneer.
Okay, so we're done with this deck now. We're gonna go over to the that's just the wrong
We're
deck.
done
actually.
with it. Get it? We have a whole nother match with it, Nathaniel.
Get done with it.
We're not done with it.
I'm done with everything. All
And
right.
then from the green black aggro, and real quick, War Dog, I actually disagree with you pretty heavily. The mono green splashing black deck is actually one of the best decks in the format.
Yeah, I think that yes, they can kill the Galta pretty easily. But the thing is, you're just playing so many things that have to be killed. Like, at a certain point, you run out of ways to kill them.
It does not look like this deck list.
No, it does not.
There are no copies of District Guide or Crowl Harpooner in it.
Yeah, one of those cards being slightly more reasonable than the other, in my opinion.
The District Guide.
No, this list is It's pretty choppy, but when I threw this list together as earlier in the week, there were no 5-0 lists to work with.
Yeah, no, I understand where we're coming from putting together. It was more something to put together for stream. We just wanted a mono green list to be messing around with.
Yep.
So for this Naya Tokens deck, I anticipate the Fine Finales could come in as a pretty reasonable board clear. If you ever get to just target like a Vine Mare or a Nullhide Ferox or something, because I know Nullhide is an 8-mana play, but it's still a possibility. You're going to get a lot of value out of that. Other than that, I guess you could bring in Bronteezy. It blocks really well and it kills artifact all of his enchantment stuff.
Yeah, you did see Conclave Tribunal, which is a decent enchantment to kill there, and it also kills his Legion Landing, which is much worse, but it is something that is there.
Yep, I don't mind it all that much. I think it's a potential card. Also, it being a 3/4 matters if you anticipate something like Justice Strike.
Yes. So I think that's all there is really to say with that.
Not a lot for the sideboard.
Yeah, and it
You
looks
guys
like
are
they're
good to start.
waiting for us, so we are good to go.
And they are full waiting for us. They haven't even resolved mulligans.
Oh man,
These are patient people.
They really want us to have the full
the
experience.
full experience of not being able to tell what cards are in their hand. It looks like Night of Autumn did come in from Joe's side, though. We see it in the front there. A couple lands. Not sure if the hand's happy enough for him. You definitely can't see what Jake's doing. And I can tell when there's forests.
Yeah, the forest is pretty easy there, but importantly also they did not reset the life totals.
No, Jake's at 11.
Oh. Yeah, shut
Did
up.
you believe me for a second? So yeah, we just went ahead and fixed that for them. There's another Overgrown Tomb and Pelt Collector going to come down. So 2 1/1s going to go ahead and knock Joe down to 19.
And hopefully Jake has something on the next turn to turn those 1/1s into 2/2s.
I would hope.
Oh, if he plays his 2/2 man that gets the land.
It grows them and he gets a land.
It's essentially a 3-mana 4/4 if you really think about it.
If you really I'm not sure that's the comparison I would make when talking about District Guide here. Here is the Mog War Marshal?
Goblin Instigator.
Mog War Marshal Impersonator.
Yes. Slightly worse.
It's because it doesn't have Echo, right? That's what makes it worse?
Yes. Oh
There
my
it is.
God.
There it is.
Cold shots.
Here I would like Joe to double block.
Yeah, I think that Joe should just go ahead and try to kill off one of the creatures and play from Jake's side here.
It is just so easy for these Pelt Collectors to be such a problem. And also the factor that after third counter they do start getting trample. I just feel like Joe should respect that. Looks like he's not. He's going to go ahead and fall down to 15.
So Joe here valuing instead keeping his own board built up. And it could be even a case where he doesn't have the ability to trade off his board early game because how his deck is built.
I think we got the Pioneers coming down. They're looking for new land. Here we come. Hey. Yep, there they are. You know what's funny about this start?
What's that?
Can't even Conclave Tribunal off these creatures.
He
4
sure-
creatures in play can't play or convoke spell.
He sure cannot do that.
You know what card? I know that it's a Selesnya mechanic, but I just really wish they could have reprinted Stoke the Flames.
Yeah, that's fair. Stoke the Flames was a really strong card, though I'm not completely unhappy to see it staying away from Standard.
Oh no, it's a very powerful card. I just think it's a very interesting card, and it led to very interesting play patterns.
It led to interesting play patterns. It also led to some less interesting ones where they're just like, I've rushed you down, here's my 4 damage.
I really enjoyed playing it in like Jeskai Ascendancy tokens.
Oh yeah, that deck, I forgot that deck was like a real deck.
Cast myself for free, untap my stuff, draw loot. Do it again. Do it again. Oh, also my guys are 4/4s.
Yeah.
Or just surprise vigilancing them or something like that.
Alright, so Joe's gonna go ahead and trade with the 2/2 and take 6 damage here, it looks like.
Look at this District Guide getting value potentially. Nope. Pelt Collector going to go ahead and bite the dust to the Pioneer and its friend.
So
I think that a Hexproof token is slightly better than a 1/1 token.
yes. So Joe here deciding to make the block he could have made last turn, only this time with better creatures, which is slightly odd. But
I guess he's valuing the red creatures for the red sources on Stoke the Flames. For the card he doesn't play?
I don't fully understand the play pattern, but it may have also just been a case of Joe was getting greedy and then realized that his line was greedy.
Oh yeah. I can understand that. Knight of Autumn looks like it's in the hand of Sapperling Migration as well. Not exactly sure where Joe wants to go with this turn. He is down to 10 already. Looks like Legion's Landing going to be the starting play.
He is down to 10, and that Nullhide Ferox, very strong card here.
But very easy for Joe to handle as long as he can keep a steady stream of creatures.
Yes.
Because it does not have any keywords that are not hexproof.
This is true. And the question becomes, is essentially just an Abyss good enough for Jake's side here?
I think if Jose is ever able to flip Legion's Landing, it's going to be very hard for the Abyss to be playable.
Yeah.
Or good enough for him, rather.
If he is able to flip the Legion's Landing, it changes the game dramatically.
I just think that Jake might be putting too much pressure on him to let that happen, though. Here is another Goblin Instigator going to go ahead and bring its friend along with him.
Yep. And this is going to give him a lot of minions to work with to block here.
Mm-hmm.
So he isn't the most threatened by this Ferox right now.
No, there's not all that much that this Ferox can be doing on this board state, but Jake's creatures are just getting to the point where multiple of them are going to become the Abyss. But it looks like he has 2 more forests in hand after this 5th land, so he's getting a little unlucky on that stage of the game.
Yeah, he has not been having the best hits as far as his land draws go, unfortunately for him.
Here comes all the creatures from Jake's side. Curious to see how Joe wants to potentially block.
I would not be totally unhappy with just trying to kill off the Pellet Collector, but he might also just value leaving enough creatures behind to flip that Legion's Landing next turn.
So it looks like we're looking at least a triple block. And yep, 3 creatures are going to go in front of the Pellet Collector. And I'm surprised to see the Lifelink token biting the dust over the Goblin token.
I would agree.
That's fair.
Sorry about that.
So just the Goblin token left behind from Joe. Jake here just having the Nullhide and the District Guide. It looks like we're paying for Nullhide, so I'm curious as to what Jake wants. Oh, pass. He's like, it looks like he just got Trips Forest in hand, so nothing really to do there.
Yeah, not a ton going on, and I feel like this has happened a couple of the games we've seen Jake play where he just kind of like just draws lands.
Well, yeah, his District Guide, it helped him draw lands.
District Guys. A mistake.
I honestly have no clue. Knight of Autumn here just going to come into play as a 3/4, doing a reasonable 3-mana powerful creature. Looks like another forest picked up here from Jake.
Jake just having the worst time possible. Though I do have to imagine, just picturing Jake, that he is smiling the entire time.
Oh no, we just saw it. He was nodding his head, just like had his big grin on his face. Everything I expect from Jake. Here, he can activate Nullhide Ferox, and then with that ability on the stack, activate Nullhide Ferox, and with that ability on the stack, activate Nullhide Ferox.
That is a play that he has available to him.
It will make it to where he's using all his mana efficiently.
Yeah.
Is that efficient?
I mean, you're using it all, so I think it's technically efficient.
Here's a Sapperling Migration going to come in from Joe. Make 2 more creatures to block this Ferox infinitely.
Yep, and with the Legion's Landing, it requires you to attack with how many creatures? 3. Okay. So if he blocks with any of these, he can't flip it, but he might be fine with that.
Yep. The Knight of Autumn just going to go ahead and come in here, which I'm kind of surprised to see. Jake going to make the joke Nullhide Ferox activation yet again.
He's
Let's
not
see
going
if
to
we drew a
fully
real
commit
card.
to the bit, though. I think it's a card that has a casting cost.
Whew. Those are good, I hear. 1 Sapperling just going to go ahead and get eaten by the Ferox. 2 damage come across. Joe falls down to 9. There's a Thorn Lieutenant, which is actually a relatively good card here because it has the ability to pump with all of these extra lands that we've been drawing.
He finally has a use for all these additional lands just lying around. It's always great when your aggro deck has, like, a mana sink.
Unfortunately, there was actually a turn where Jake elected not to play a land, and if he had played a land on that turn, he would have been able to cast and activate, which means that the Knight of Autumn could no longer attack.
Yeah.
It's small.
It is small.
But it's there. So Hunted Witness going to go ahead and come into play, Sapperling Migration following it up. So we're going to see a larger chunk of tokens to start blocking and potentially maybe even start the offense from Joe's side.
At the very minimum, it's going to allow him to soon enough actually get that Legion's Landing flipped into Adonto the first fort, and that's going to kind of give him a little bit of a way to stem any bleeding that he might be experiencing.
Ooh. Knight of Autumn going to go ahead and come in again, so Jake doesn't really have any profitable blocks, so this is 4 damage that's going to come across, putting Jake down to 12.
Yep. And
he's setting up for a potentially very powerful heroic reinforcements anytime that he draws his 4th land. I think there's already one in the hand.
If he draws into a land, then the heroic is probably going to be lethal.
And I think that's something that Jake has to think about, but he does also have to keep pressuring Joe.
I think that it's one of those things where it's like, how much can Jake really consider this late game card when he's already losing in this part of the game?
And you're having the situation of the player that's being mana flooded versus the player that's light on lands. Once the player light on lands finds his land, he will be the advantaged player.
Yes.
Because he's the one that has spells left over. Hunted Witness going to go ahead and make the vampire after it has died.
Whew. Yep.
And there is the
3/2.
Crawl Harpooners.
Yep. Now, if Joe draws into the land there for his heroics, then he is going to have lethal attack.
It doesn't look like he did. If we're just tapping 2 lands, I think this is just Amara.
Wait, no, he will have 10 damage.
He makes 2 guys. The Knight of Autumn gets blocked, and he has 5 left over.
Yeah, and that would be all 2/2s.
Yep.
So, yeah.
So Amara going to go ahead and cast a Conclave Tribunal. That'll leave a elf token over for Jake, assuming he remembers.
I sure hope.
There it is. It looks like Joe helped him remember. I'm not sure. He could have just said it. Amusingly, the Harpooners here does block the Knight of Autumn, so that card coming in is a little more awkward.
Yeah. Though, if you have that 4-mana card in your hand, you possibly can also just wait around and hope to draw into a way to cast it before you make any attacks.
It's definitely getting more awkward for Joe the longer that this happens, if Jake keeps drawing this string of real cards off the top. Not sure what he picked up there. Looks like we're taking a look at the board, so he's definitely thinking about something. There it is.
Alright, so if that card was like, what else would be played in that slot?
I'm trying to think of exactly what the mono green decks that I've been seeing are playing. I can't give you 100% on what they're on. I mean, 2 more Vine Mares should be in the deck, in that deck's main deck.
Sure, so if it was a Vine Mare, that would still be better.
It'd be a lot better.
Yeah, as it turns out. 4-mana 5/3. Slightly better than a 3-mana 2/2 in this situation.
Other than that, I'm trying to think on the other creatures that they're really on, but I can't for some reason bring it to my head.
Yep. Being as Jake tutored land, there's no reason not to just play that land here. Just go ahead and get yourself up to 9 mana. So you can almost hardcast Ugalta.
Ooh, we're getting there, man. The district guides make it easier to do too. I mean, that's one of their primary uses, right?
They're essentially a 3-mana dark ritual for Galta specifically.
I'm not sure that's true. So the guide that got put into play this turn is the one that's attacking, and Joe pointed it out. And Jake's just like, just imagine it's different. But yeah, Harpooners, Nullhide Ferox, and the guide going to come in. Looks like the lifelink token going to go in front of the Ferox, and 4 damage should be coming across here total after lifelink. So Joe should be falling to 3.
But Joe's still thinking.
Taking a long thought about this. I can understand the concern about potentially falling to 3 here. He might have to start pumping the brakes on some of these attacks. We have a Knight of Autumn that isn't getting in front of a 2/2, though.
We do have that.
Knight of Autumn did not attack last turn. Yeah.
Just realized it, pointed to his Knight of Autumn, went, wow, I missed that. And then probably laughed.
Yeah, that happens. A little bit of a no offense, no defense. Gotta love that.
Yeah, he's gonna sit there.
So Joe here gonna go ahead and take some time to think over this line.
Now, I could be wrong here, but I think I saw Joe having the March of the Multitudes in his hand, and if he has that, I feel like he probably just wins the game on the following turn.
He doesn't have a ton of creatures. March costs 3, so he'd be able to make 5. So he has to survive through this turn, and it has to be in a relevant manner.
Well, so he makes 6 because of the Imra.
Correct.
And then he can block the 6/6 and block like some of the other creatures and survive. And then if he draws a land, he wins the game.
Jake, looks like we're full attacking. Counting up the creatures from Joe's side to make sure that this is a safe line, it looks like.
He is. I wonder if he's even doing math anymore. If he's just pointing.
I think he's just pointing at stuff, but I can't give you 100%. Yeah, we're going to keep the token and the second guide back. Interesting to see the guide coming in when we know about this this Knight of Autumn block now. Amara going in front of the Harpooner is happy with that trade, it looks like. And if we're tapping mana, this is the march. So we're trading our Amara here.
Yep. So he's going to get 6 1/1 tokens.
But no Hide Ferox got activated.
The Ferox is getting activated in response here. And, yeah, that's not looking great for Jake's side.
No, it is not. It is definitely not what he wants to be seeing. So damage going to go ahead and go through. Joe should be gaining 1 life from this exchange up to 4. And, again, land off the top means that... And it can be any land.
Even if he doesn't draw the land, though, at this point, I think that Joe's perfectly fine here. He's
There's
going to be able to flip the Adanto.
Another Goblin Instigator. There it is.
Oh, boy.
More and more tokens. Yeah, I would like to see 3 of the soldiers or knights, whatever creature type they are, coming in. Or just that, apparently.
Just that.
So, looking more at this list, March of the Multitudes and all these cards, they make knights, right? Those aren't soldiers. Those are 1/1 knight tokens.
White soldier.
It's soldier?
Yeah.
I don't know why I thought it was knight. That'd be too good.
That would be too good. They're all just soldiers. We are all soldiers now.
We're all soldiers now. Is Jake just going to go ahead and fall down to 8 here? I'm very surprised to see the Legion's Landing not flipping here, though.
Yeah, that's... So, the fact that A gives you a continuous string of blockers, but also allows you to guarantee to have your 4-drop next turn, makes me wonder as to why you would not.
So Jake here just drew another Ferox. Looks like the first one in the district guide going to go ahead and come in and get frisky here. But yeah, Joe is definitely at the point to where he's started to pick this game back up.
Yes.
This is a game that the longer it goes, the more Joe feels like he's favored. As we see Jake just mushing all of the cards on his side of the table into a pile as the Selesnya Conclave, as Joe is very obviously pointing out, has defeated him.
All right, then. So now we're going to go ahead and see Joe again, only this time he's going to be going against Kirby on Firemind's Insight, which might be definitely in contention for the most interesting deck of the night here.
Absolutely. I actually played right before I came down here against a blue-red tempo deck on Arena, but they were on like the Enigma Drakes and the Crackling Drakes in their main deck.
Yes.
Had a pretty reasonable match with them, and then in Game 3 they resolved to Fireman's Research, and I was like, how do I win?
Yeah, that is fair.
Don't think I win anymore. And this card, a lot of people were talking about how, so to kill someone with just this enchantment, if they are at 20 life and you have no burn, it takes 20 spells.
Yes.
That's a lot of spells. But there's a statement to go there. There are 4 Ionizes and 4 Lightning Strikes in your deck. I think you have some burn.
Well, also the fact that it's not a legendary enchantment.
Correct.
That does matter. And it also can play the role of, it importantly does not say 5 damage to a player, it does say 5 damage to a target.
Yep, it can be removal.
It can be removal for creatures, it can be removal for planeswalkers, and that can be extremely relevant in certain matchups. And other than that, you're just playing a lot of different effective spells. You are playing 2 Fiery Colonnades as your board wipes. You have 2 mission briefings just as a way to kind of like get a little Snapcaster value. And then you have your Shivan Fires, your Lightning Strikes, your Lava Coils as your early removal. And you just have a lot of spells that work well.
There are a lot of very powerful cards and a lot of things that I like about what this deck is doing. I'm just not sure if this is the type of direction that you want to be going for the long run of the format. We are testing different things out. We're seeing if these kinds of things do work. I'd be very happy if this deck was good. but I'm not going to put a ton of my hopes up.
Yeah, I feel the same. I would definitely be interested in playing this type of deck, but I don't have the highest hopes that it's going to be good across the board. I think a card like Firemind's Insight can be baller against control decks or mid-range decks, but it's not necessarily. I feel like it might be a little slow even as creature removal against the aggressive decks.
So for this specific matchup, how do you think Kirby fares?
I think that if he draws his cannonades, he might be fine, but I don't think this is going to be an easy matchup for him.
Yeah, I think the cannonades are the most important thing. Are we on any main deck negates, or are those all sideboard? It looks like they're all sideboard. Essence Scout are going to be a little bit awkward. You are not good at that.
I keep forgetting I have to click it. I'll delete the other one later. All right. So I anticipate this not going super great for him in the first game, and then second game honestly doesn't look a ton better here.
No, I wouldn't be all that surprised. Card like Niv Mizzet is an interesting card for this matchup, though, because it means that every single card draws a kill spell.
It is that, and the third Fiery Cannonade does help out a little bit as well on the sideboard, so we'll see how that goes. But
all right, yeah, we'll go ahead and send it down to the matches. I'll give them the go-ahead. Y'all are good to go. So, do you believe, then, that Joe is favored in this matchup?
I think he is, but I'm not positive.
Okay. I can understand that.
I feel like Kirby's deck is just kind of put in an awkward spot by a lot of things Joe's deck does.
Have we not done that all night?
No, we've been doing that.
Oh.
This is the first time.
This is round 5, though, right?
This is round 5. So that is the only thing that did not get changed.
Okay. So everything's updated. We see the Guildgate start from Kirby and a Hunted Witness start from Joe. Multiple Ionizes up in the hand, and we see there is the Fireman's Insight coming down on turn 2 is exactly where that card wants to be. And here's one thing interesting is this card better than a card like Search for Riscanta?
No, I do not think so.
Should there be any copies of Search for Riscanta in Kirby's deck? Do you think they're better than maybe something like Mission Briefing?
That's where it gets weird, because while I think that in a vacuum Search for Riscanta is better, I think that the Firemind's research appears to be the backbone of this deck.
Yeah, I just think that it's relatively easy for him to be able to slot it into his deck in some numbers.
Yeah, it just so the Mission Briefing does give you a little bit more reach, and it is double spell for Firemind's research. Though it is a little questionable whether or not you need that card specifically. So I could see cutting it, but I could also see just not playing Search for Riscanta specifically in this deck.
I can understand that. We see Joe going ahead for Legion's Landing here on turn 3. Kirby had a second there to think about potentially ionizing it. He went against it. It looks like Joe's just going to pass back and make it a little awkward on Kirby's lands. And it looks like we're just seeing a Mission Briefing as a Scry 2.
And it looks like Kirby here not finding any spells to cast with the Mission Briefing, so it's just going to be a Scry 2.
Yep.
And he... Oh, well, a Surval too, sorry. And that's it.
It would have had to be like exactly the one Shivan Fire, or no, because the lands he tapped he couldn't opt. So yeah, it was exactly the one Shivan Fire to be able to cast.
And importantly here, Kirby missing his third land drop, which makes this already not great board state even worse for him.
Yeah, whiffing on his fourth land drop there means it's going to be a lot harder for him to potentially get somewhere in this game. And even if he has something like a Fiery Cannonade, Joe has found, or his start was on 200 Witnesses, which is going to make it to where they're going to play that Doomed Traveler effect and making a token as they leave. Joe here flips the Adonto, has 4 mana. Looks like we're going for a Conclave Tribunal. Going to attempt to take care of the Fireman's Research, but I'm assuming Kirby's going to ionize that.
Yep. Seems free enough here from Kirby's side.
Yep, counter goes on the Fireman's Research, another draw. Looks like another Mission Briefing from Kirby's side.
And so Kirby's just going to be doing the sad pass backs here.
It looks like there's another Conclave Tribunal in Joe's hand. Can't get a look at the other card, though. Untap is 3 creatures. Luckily, it's not a super fast clock, but this deck gets a little out of hand with what it does if you don't have answers to its early threats.
And having the flipped Danto in play does make cards like Fiery Cannonade a little bit worse, considering Joe can just start reproducing a board state off of this one land.
Yep. The ability to just generate a larger board state over time because of these lands is just one of the best things that Joe's deck has. And we've seen a lot of content producers writing articles just about how the non-searcher's con to flip lands are underrated and how the majority of them will probably see a lot of play, excluding exactly Vance's blasting cannons.
Yeah, that seems reasonable.
And not like the equipment,
The enchantment ones, not the artifact ones.
treasure map.
Well, I mean across the board.
Yeah. Steam Vents to pick up there for Kirby, so he does have a 4th land, but it's going to cost him a couple. It looks like we made no attacks from Joe's side, though. It looks like we're going for a March of the Multitudes at the end here.
Now, March of the Multitudes being a play that gets slightly worse if Kirby does have an Ionize in hand.
Yep, and it looks like he does. He also has a Sinister Sabotage, so it depends on how he wants to cast. But we're going to go for a Syncopate, leaving 1 land open.
Syncopate being the most efficient counterspell here.
Yep.
Well, efficient, and it loses playability later in the game.
Yep, it's better to play Syncopates early, unless you're in a control matchup in where it actually does help you in the counter wars.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no control matchups that we have here.
There certainly are not.
I just realized we're going to see this against Teamer Ramp.
Yeah. Yeah.
What is life?
It's gonna be neat. It's gonna be neat, really. So you're gonna have Kirby here just sitting with his Fire Mines in sight, trying to have a good time, and then you just kind of Michael throwing like omnisciences at him.
Here's my Palaka Worm.
I mean, if he resolves it, it feels real strong.
Yeah. Looks like another March of the Multitudes here going to happen. It looks like Joe going for main phase on this one. I like that a little bit better from him.
Yep. Looks like he's holding up 2 lands here.
Interesting. I can't think. Oh, does that card give indestructible? The singleton pump spell that he has? Pride of the Conquerors?
Let us look that card up.
I think it's right there in the front.
Creatures you control get +1/+1 turn if you have the City's Blessings.
Which he does.
So it doesn't give them indestructible, but it gives them +2/+2 in a turn, which saves them from Fire Cannonade.
Yep, so they can't be cannon. I like this play from Joe a lot.
Yep, I think that's a very heads-up play there from Joe's side.
He's going to pass back. Joe looks like he picked up a... Couldn't get a great look at what it was.
And if Kirby gets greedy and tries to kill anything in combat, Joe does have the ability to triple down on the damage he's dealing this turn.
Mm-hmm. Kirby just going to go ahead and fall to 8. Joe being very patient. Oh, it's the old Pioneers. Taking a look at casting that one. Can't target that token it makes. No, sir, it has hexproof.
Should he have gained 4 life?
Probably.
Probably.
I'm sure we've missed a lot more life gain triggers.
I'm positive Joe doesn't know how to gain life.
Which is funny because of how much he was talking about. There's so much incidental life gain in this deck.
If there's so much incidental life gain that I can miss half of it and still gain a lot of life.
Still be fine against the red-based decks because it doesn't matter. Chemist's Insight looks just going to be the play from Kirby here. He's really just falling behind, nothing really to do. And with Joe keeping this Pride of the Conquerors up, it's going to make it very, very difficult for Kirby to be able to potentially win this game.
And Joe is threatening action from Kirby's side, considering he does have lethal in play currently.
And I don't think Kirby hit anything that can actually be used. So what he has to do here, I believe, is his 5th land in hand is another Steam Vents. So he has to go to 6 and then mission briefing for a Fiery Cannonade.
Yeah, and then that gets blown out.
Yep.
So Kirby may think he has an out here, but he is in fact just dead to what Joe is doing.
He's definitely thinking through the lines, like, is there a potential? And it might not be on his radar that there is a card like Pride of the Conquerors in his deck.
I would not be surprised if that flew under his radar, if we're being honest here.
Okay, so we're casting a mission briefing first.
Okay.
So definitely like. I wonder what Joe's thinking about here.
I really don't know what Joe's thinking about here. There's nothing really to think about in response to that. And it looks like Kirby not hitting anything relevant there.
Nope, just 2 lands.
And seeing as I don't believe there's a fiery cannon in his graveyard, he's probably just going to be scooping up his cards here.
Man, you showed him that you played Mountain Island. He should have conceded first.
Yes. That is definitely a case where the information is not super important.
But Mountain Island. Now he knows you play more than one mountain.
Alright, so
Land comes in play tapped and just pass back. And
if for
really,
some reason Joe doesn't make an all-out attack...
if Joe has a stroke, Kirby can win.
Why is that always a thing that people say in this stream specifically?
I use that term a lot. Like, a lot.
Caleb used it once as well,
I know.
and it was awful.
Looks like Joe is going to go ahead and shock into Temple Garden here, and 4 mana. I'm not. What are you playing? Tribunal.
Sure.
Take your insight. He's like, I don't know, man. I don't get to play. Why are we casting more spells? 2 mana. 5 the Pioneers. Make all my men gigantic. Okay. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and move into sideboarding here. So we'll go ahead and start with, I assume, the blue-red side?
Sure, we'll start with that.
Alright, we already kind of talked about this a little bit beforehand, but we definitely want this extra fiery
Cannonade. For sure, want to bring that in, and then you were talking about the Niv Mizzet Perun.
I kind of like Niv Mizzet in this matchup. It's a little bit difficult for Joe to handle. It blocks very well, and if you're ever able to untap with it, it probably wins the game single-handedly for you.
I would agree. So definitely a fan of that. How hot are we on Essence Scatters here?
I definitely prefer playing Negate.
Yeah. So bringing the negates over the Essence Scatters. As far as the Cannonade and the Niv Mizzet,
Lava Coil, Beacon Bolt.
those two are the weakest cards to be playing here.
Yep. Beacon Bolt being a sorcery is primarily why I think it is the weaker of those removal spells. Same with the Lava Coil. They're not exactly what you want in this type of matchup. Lava Coil could be good if you anticipate something like the Cavaliers to be coming in, as it does exile, meaning there will be no knights left over. But those are more than likely what I would be looking at.
And if you want any target removal left in your deck, I think that the Shivering Fires are going to be your best option, considering most of the creatures in the opponent's deck get killed by it.
Also, Lightning Strike. You still have Lightning Strike.
You still have Lightning Strike as well, yes.
Is there an argument for Fight with Fire? Do you think we're getting to 10 mana? Or 9 mana?
I don't think that we're getting to 9 mana in a world where we aren't winning.
That's fair. Yeah, because if you're getting to 9 mana and then Plague Winding, it's like, how did we get here?
Yeah, like...
We don't have, like, Cryptic Command to tap the team and...
Joe is not presenting enough of a threat, and you're not going to just, like, barely get there, get to your 9th mana, be like, I finally got here, wipe the board.
I somehow was able to stem the bleeding for this long.
Alright, and then from the Naya token side...
We got a lot of Planeswalkers. So I would anticipate to see Ajani, Cavalier, Karn, Shalai.
So just the full mid-range gamut?
Yes. I would like to see all 8 of those cards come in. I don't want Amara. It is the only card that gets 1-for-1 removal in the matchup.
Yes.
And I don't like the Loxodons, just kind of like how we were last week. I don't really like Loxodons in these matchups where the opponents have a lot of removal.
Alright, and then aside from that, we cut down on some number of Pioneers or March of the Multitudes.
I like trimming 1 on each of those slots.
1 of each? Okay, then that seems entirely reasonable. That about it?
Yep, that pretty much sums up what we're thinking. You guys are ready to start whenever you're good? Looks like Kirby here finishing a sideboarding. In only 3 piles.
Kirby, a reasonable person, I guess.
With a reasonable amount of sideboarding piles?
As opposed to Josh's, like, 75 piles.
1 for each card?
Makes a 76 for his tokens. Looks at his tokens first. So, but yeah, I think that it's interesting, kind of seeing more of the more like cute decks that possibly being brought here. I think Firemind's Insight is definitely kind of a pseudo lightning rod for people who like to brew. It feels like the what was the 3 mana artifact from Kaladesh that gains you energy?
Dynavolt Tower.
Dynavolt Tower. It feels like Dynavolt Tower all over.
There were like decks that won with that card.
Oh yeah, there were plenty of decks that did well with Dynavolt Tower.
Do you think there's a weird Jeskai control deck that plays like 1 or 2 Fire Mines?
I don't necessarily know if it's a main board card, but I definitely think that it's a mirror breaker.
I would agree. That card was pretty much single-handedly what was beating me, and I've been doing the last couple of days. Pretty much all I've been playing is the like blue-black disinformation campaign deck. I think it's sweet.
Yeah,
I think you would love that deck, Nathaniel.
I definitely want to toy around with that stuff. Unfortunately, it'll probably be into late November when I finally get to toy around with Arena. But once I do, I'm going to be on it a lot.
Do it in paper.
And yeah.
You play in paper.
Yeah, I also like occasionally play it
It's pretty
on the
much
computer.
blue-black control.
Yeah. No, I'm a fan of the blue-black controls. Have played it at a couple events.
And it's the games where you have a disinformation campaign just going. It is just ooh. It is unbeatable.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay.
If that card comes into play like 3 times against mid-range or control decks, you win.
I'm actually going to go ahead and start a Patreon and buy your PC with the free internet money. Huh. Now,
I think if we had a Patreon, all of it would be going to or host for all of this.
our host has put a lot of money into these mics.
Yeah, you
the setup.
you also set Kirby as winning his match, by the way.
Nah.
So Joe was definitely the one who won the game.
Nah.
Thank you, Lancey Lance, for pointing
False
out.
information.
Disinformation.
Yes. I kind of just clicked the wrong little diddly-do and gave the wrong person the win there. As you do.
I need when I do like arena streams, I need to do it at a time that the Jace Friends Prodigy. Thanks for joining us and being worth $100 in standard. I made a lot of money because you were $100 when you were in standard.
I remember that I opened a Russian Jace Friends Prodigy from a Russian box I bought. Long story, it was a bad idea. So someone was like, do you want to trade this English Nissa for the Jason? This was when the set first came out. I was like, yeah, you dumb idiot. This Nissa's only going to go up.
You see, I pre-ordered a playset of JVPs at 10 each.
All right.
I flipped them at Hondos.
So importantly, when the set came out, there was an argument between myself and like some other people that follow finance. And everyone thought that the card Search First content was absolute garbage.
I remember discussing this.
And Kirby, the entire time, was like, no, this card's going to be insane. And everyone's just like, shut up, Kirby. You're an idiot. Please stop talking. And then, like, a few weeks go by, and Kirby just kind of, like, walks up to him and is like, hey, how's that Search First content treating you? Because I was playing that card heavy at that point. And, yeah, it was not a great time.
So here we just see a pretty simple start from both players. The Instigator coming down from Joe, and it looks like Kirby's first play just being a Field of Ruin, taking care of one of Joe's lands.
Now,
his start looking pretty slow.
Now, I don't think this matters a ton. It looks like he's going for hitting the red-white source here. There are two... there's only one green-white source in play and 2 red-white sources.
But there were unlikely to be any mountains.
Yes, that's where I was going to go with it. So, in theory, he could force Joe to get a basic force by destroying the Temple Garden, but it doesn't matter a ton considering Joe already has double white, double red.
And there are no cards other than the Cavalier that really check on double green.
Correct.
So giving him the second green source isn't that big of a deal unless, say, an untapped white source comes off here. It looks like you already had the Temple Garden anyways.
And doing this means if Kirby does manage to draw into his second Field of Ruin, he can theoretically shut off Joe's red.
Joe's hand is gasoline. There's a Karn and a Johnny.
I see a lot of Planeswalkers.
I see a lot of power. A lot of orange set symbols.
Now, from Joe's side here, he's solely trying to figure out which of these cards I care about the least.
I like leading on the Cavalier a lot.
Cavalier is a strong card, but it is certainly the card you can let go the easiest.
Kirby just going to go ahead and fight that off with an Ionize, and here we see 5 mana. There is Ral Zarek. Is it Viceroy? Go ahead and pull that one up, because I don't think a lot of people paid attention to what this card does. I've played a lot of games against this card, and it is actually very, very good.
I've theory crafted playing this in Jeskai Control.
And this is a card that has the current 5 mana Planeswalkers discussion. So we start on 5, we have a +1, draw a card in some manner. -3, kill something in some manner.
And -8, win the game in some manner.
Yep.
And that's it.
Most importantly here, it's look at the top 2, 1 in the hand, 1 in the graveyard. Works very well with Jumpstart. It's the primary reason that it was the Is It Planeswalker. -3 deals damage to target creature equal to the total number of instant and sorceries in exile and in graveyard. Also works well with Jumpstart.
Yes.
And then the emblem, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, it deals 4 to any target and you draw 2 cards. But importantly here, we did see a Johnny Adversary of Tyrants come down. I'm going to go ahead and give the counters over to the tokens and knock Ral down to 2.
And I'm also going to go and pull that up. You should be more likely to know that card, but this is the world we live in. I swear to God if I... Okay.
I still remember when this card got previewed or released, Tom Ross on Twitter was like, "This card's good," and he's coming from like R&D.
Yeah.
He's just like, "This card is good. Play with this card."
So the reason I laugh is because I've interacted with Tom a fair amount. So just thinking of him just coming from me like, "This card is good," in real life just
And
cracks
just
me up.
leaving.
Because that's basically the amount of words you'll get out of him anyways.
So I overheard like a lot of players like, if Tom Ross tells you to play an aggro card in white or red, you play it.
Yeah. Tom Ross is one of the players I've grown to respect his opinion of very much.
He is very good. So here we see Joe going ahead and looking at the board here, seeing Ral and the Firemind enchantment. But if Fire Cannon is going to take care of the creatures in response to the Ajani, get a counter on the enchantment. But Joe here has follow-ups of cards like Karn in multiples.
Yep, he does have multiple cards here. And from his side, he can either make a 1/1 token, or he can just start getting that card advantage going.
The Karn advantage.
The Karn advantage, yes.
We see Legion's Landing and the Goblin Instigator, the top two cards. Also, we see those two Planeswalkers are apparently not friends, as they are as far away on the board as possible.
They sure are not friends. They're not friendly with each other.
The Goblin going to go ahead and be added to Joe's hand and going to pass back to Kirby. So Planeswalkers are pretty difficult for an Izzet deck to handle.
Yes. He can kill it with Firemind's Insight if they're below 5, and he gets that many spells in. He has 2 red mana, but that's a lot of things,
It's
isn't
like
it?
a land going to Kirby's hand, the Beacon Bolt going to Graveyard, and it looks like we picked up a Crackling Drake at some point.
Okay. I'm gonna pull that. I'm pulling a lot of cards up here.
There are a lot of new cards. So, gonna go ahead and tap our 4 basics to cast the Drake. 4 mana, 0/4, +1/+1 for each instant and sorcery in the graveyard, and ETB, draw a card. Also flying.
Yep. So it's an okay magic card, is what I would consider it to be.
Is a 4 mana 3/4 that drew a card that gets bigger.
Yeah.
Notably, not a dragon. It is a Drake. I wish it was a dragon so it could be playable in like a Sarkhan, Niv Mizzet, Nicol Bolas deck.
It's a really unusual reprint to see coming into this set, but because it's a Gilded Drake, because Guilds of Ravnica. Yep, that's it. No, the card seems very neat.
Can I get a new partner?
You know, other phrases I hear a lot from people sitting next to me, working with me, family members, general people that know me, just
Life
can I get
partners?
another one? Life partners. Most of the time, I don't get past they get to like the 24-hour return period, and they're like, no, gotta get my money back in this one.
The Goblin Instigator are going to go in and come in, put counters on these goblins, it looks like. As Johnny goes up to 7, and what's a Johnny Ultimate at?
Dude, I do not
I think
even
it's
know.
7.
I'm gonna open this up in a new tab and not even do the save thing. It -7 to get an emblem at the beginning of your instep. Create a 1/1 white cat token with lifelink.
3.
3.
Yeah. A Johnny is an emblem that wins the game.
Yes.
Looks like Joe's hand just being Karn. I'm not sure what the other cards are, but you're going to go ahead and plus. We see a Hunted Witness and a Rootbound Crag. Rootbound Crag going to go to the hand. I think if anyone was curious as to why the life totals were getting changed, one of them accidentally hit it while moving around.
That sounds accurate.
So 4 mana still here. If there's like a Conclave Tribunal, it should be taking care of this Crackling Drake, I would assume. Is there Vivian Reed in a 75? Because it keeps looking like there's one in Joe's hand.
There should not be a Vivian Reed.
Don't quote me on that, but it kind of looks like there is, but, you know.
Yeah, is it possible that the Sapperling migration, it's green and kind of
Probably.
has similar
Oh,
color?
no, it's more than likely a Pioneer.
Okay,
Let's be real.
that's fair.
I just see this green card, like someone like leaning off to the side or something. That's what's going on with Vivian's artwork.
Yeah.
Alright, so Ralzarette going to go ahead and plus. We see Mountain and a Dream Eater in the pile. I think Kirby already has a Dream Eater in hand, so I'm not sure if he wants to pick up a second one here. Because this Crackling Drake is almost 100% going to have to go after this Ajani unless he wants to Dream Eater it back to the hand.
Yeah, His hands are definitely tied in the way that he needs to do something about this Ajani. He's not winning the game if Joe's pumping out 3/1/1 lifelink tokens per turn.
Not at all. I believe Joe also has a Markers of Multitude in hand.
And that card's also pretty strong here.
So even if Kirby has like a good turn here, it's going to look a little bit difficult for him to kind of pull back into this game. Not really sure what we're thinking about the exact lines for. Crackling Drake looks like we're coming in at a Johnny. Unlikely that Joe has many answers for the flying creature, unfortunately for him.
And Joe just going to give a thumbs up there.
Yep, passing priority properly. There's a potential that Kirby might want to try to play more spells.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like Chemister's Insight, Dream Eater, Ionize, I think a second Dream Eater, and is that one of the enchantments?
Yes. So, right now, Kirby kind of just left in a position of trying to figure out how to jump through a lot of hoops and deal with everything that is currently in play from the opponent's side. And it looks like he's going for
The Beacon Bolt.
Beacon Bolt on one of the 2/2 tokens.
Mm-hmm. So that should deal 3 damage to it because it checks itself while it's in exile, I'm pretty sure, the way Jumpstart works. It's not quite flashback.
No, I'm just trying to think about how the resolution of it works. Because it resolves and then goes...
I think it's because as it's resolving, it's in the exile pile, so it's checking itself.
Sure. I'm not entirely sure on that. Like, I'm kind of leaning towards it doesn't count it, because when the effect is applied before it moves to exile, and in the meanwhile, it's on the stack.
That makes sense. Looks like a Pride of the Conqueror is going to get cast in response to go ahead and try to save the Goblin token, and Kirby seems like he's willing to fight over that.
It's a little interesting here, though Joe's line clearly implies that he cares a lot about this 2/2 token.
Iona is going to go ahead and counter that, which means that the Beacon Bolt's going to deal an extra point of damage or two, but not all that big of a deal.
Does not matter all that much. And Joe's thinking...
Can't march with multitudes anymore, you don't have the mana, and
Nope.
I wouldn't want to make one creature.
Yeah, so now he's left with still a fine board, though.
Oh yeah. He has 2 very powerful Planeswalkers in play, along with a creature that's getting incrementally larger. He is facing off against a 4/4 flyer, which is a little bit difficult for his deck to handle, actually.
Yeah, he is starting to have things to deal with on the opponent's side. Kirby is no longer just kind of like idly doing nothing,
Mm-hmm.
but I think Joe still is slightly in control of the game. But not to the point that Kirby has no chance.
Yeah, I'd agree with you there. So Joe going to go ahead and take a minute to think about what his best line here is. I assume it's going to start with something that has to do with Karn.
Yeah, Karn feels like the starting point to your turn here.
I'm going to go ahead and pick up the Legion's Landing, looks like.
Yep. Did they forget the Ionize damage?
I think they did. Joe was already at 16.
Should we mention the Ionize?
It's part of Resolution. It's not a bay.
Yeah.
Joe, did you take 2 from Ionize?
There we go.
Whenever they don't question it and just automatically do it.
Yeah. Magic is hard, I guess.
Yep. We need 20 pairs of eyes on it to figure out how it resolves.
To be fair, if you've seen an SCG or WotC or whatever large tournament streamer there is, whenever like someone makes an illegal play, the chat just...
Oh, they jump.
They explode.
Or when they myth lethal.
They do that.
Chat lethal.
Whew.
Yeah, looks like here comes the Pioneer's going to go ahead and make its Merfolk friend with it. Kirby going to go ahead and untap. Ralzarek down to 2 from the combat that just happened. So, are you trying to play a spell main... or I guess Ral might be able to put a spell in the graveyard. Looks like just 2 lands, though.
And
Field of Ruin, one of them.
not exactly what you're looking for, especially now that Joe does have a second red source, so you can't really...
But there's a Legion's Landing in play now.
I forgot about that. There is a Legion's Landing in play, so that is kind of insurance for Adanto, the first for it.
So you have a Chemister's Insight in hand. Are you playing at main phase to be able to kill a Johnny?
I mean, just getting rid of one of those Planeswalkers seems fairly tempting.
2 mana. Might be a smaller play to be able to do that. Looks like a Lightning Strike going to take care of the Goblin Instigator, meaning that the Crackling Drake will have 5 power, which will be able to kill a Johnny. That's a much cleaner play. We have a lot of mana
Now,
left over.
you said you had a Chemister's Insight left in hand?
Yep.
You could have, in theory, just gone for a Chemister's Insight, drawn to, use the counters to kill the Johnny, and then dealt 6 to the Karn.
I like that a lot more, now that I think about it.
Just because that cleanly clears everything.
You have to get rid of all the Planeswalkers. Yeah, I didn't even think about that line. I completely forgot that the enchantment was in play, to be honest.
That is reasonable. It hasn't really been activated at
Nope.
all.
It's a hard card to activate. It requires a lot of spells to be played. And in a game where there's a lot of interaction that has to happen, you don't get your efficiency on your spells.
Yeah.
You don't get to just cast your Chemister's Insights twice or do whatever you need to do at all times. You have to make decisions, more so.
Yeah.
6 mana here is a Dream Eater. Curious as to what that's doing.
I feel like we might see it hitting that Karn there, but
Is this in upkeep and draw step?
I'm not really for sure on where we are at.
Lightning Strike, Crackling Drake, Island are the top cards for Kirby. Island's going to go to the graveyard. Looks like keeping the Drake and the Strike. I would
Okay,
hope
he's just going to go and kill a creature.
Drake top. We're entering combat with the Legion's Landing, looks like. In response, Joe's going to go ahead and cast a March of the Multitudes.
And that's going to be a March of the Multitudes for 4, 5, 6, 7, I believe.
Yep, definitely for a lot. Which is a pretty good situation for Joe, because unfortunately for Kirby, or it looks like it was just for 6.
Oh, I must have miscounted.
Unfortunately for Kirby, the top 2 cards of his library do not include Fiery Cannonade or the way to flash it back.
They do not, but fortunately for Kirby, he does have ample amount of life total and blockers to work with.
Yep, and he also does have card selection with Ral and the Crackling Drake.
Yeah, he is hardly out of the game at the current moment.
Chemister's Insight and another Dream Eater in the hand as well. That card's art just has like a weird coloration. The Dream Eater.
It's weird. Like, I guess you have weird colors after eating all those dreams, but like...
Card going to show a land and another March of the Multitudes. Land going to go to Joe's hand.
unsurprisingly there.
And Kirby really needs to find something like a cannonade. He needs to be able to clear this board. And I will make it notable, this matchup is not a fast one, and we are hitting the 20-minute mark.
That is a point here. They do have to worry about the clock as being a possible match ender.
Mm-hmm. Also, I think with the Lightning Strike that Kirby forgot to put his counter on the Insight.
That would be quite unfortunate for him.
Crackling Drake and a Rouser Rack on top. Looks like Kirby deciding between which of those is the more powerful card at this point. Yeah, he had to have, because if he cast it and we were talking about it's going to get its 5th counter from the Lightning.
Well, it was going to get the 5th from the draw too.
Yeah, which you didn't play, right?
Yeah.
He played the... Oh, no, it's because he played Dream Eater and all Lightning.
Yeah.
Words are hard. Or figuring out lines.
There's a lot going on here.
Yeah, Kirby has a lot of very important things going on. Looks like we're taking Ral. Crackling Drake picked up.
Yep, I like the Crackling Drake more here.
Lightning Strike going upstairs? And that's just lethal, actually. I didn't even think about that.
Yep, that's just a lethal attack there. Okay, then.
All right, well, that makes that easy.
Yep. Alrighty, then. Oh, you can take care of this.
Yep. So we're going to go ahead and move on here to game number 3. Joe going to be on the play. Definitely going to give Joe a lot of a better shot at this kind of matchup.
Yes. Alright, so...
Kirby squeaking that one out. Kind of doing that counterburn thing where you get into that back foot, but you finally figured out how to kill them.
Yeah, that was an interesting thing, and I'll admit I didn't even see the lethal there at first. I was trying to think about too many other things that were going on.
I think the main thing is we were just forgetting that there was 5 points of damage in play because of the stupid fire mines.
Yeah, which that's interesting. In that game, it was just a really long-waited lava axe.
Well, so are we incorrectly calling it Fire Mines Insight when it's Fire Mines Research?
Huh.
Yeah, there's another card that's something inside.
Huh.
Oh, Chemistry's Insight. Oh, okay, I get it. Because Fire Mines Insight isn't that 7 mana spell that picks a 1, a 2, and a 3?
Yes. It is. got us. Wow. Just quality card names from us.
Let's go ahead and get that done for that. We're going to be moving here into game 3, and I will go ahead and let them know you guys have about 16.5 minutes on the clock, as this is not a matchup that seems to move fast.
No. It certainly is not, but I feel like 16 minutes should be enough time for one of them to win.
Kirby here going over his sideboarding. Looks like he made a small adjustment to it. So in this game 3, once we're post sideboard and everything, so after seeing how game 2 went, who do you think is favored in game 3?
I still feel slightly in Joe's favor.
I would agree. It's just a little bit harder for Kirby to answer these wide arrays of threats that Joe has.
Yes.
And definitely with him being on the play, it's going to be a lot better for him. Like, if he has a start that's Legion's landing into, say, Sapling Migration or something similar, he's just going to be able to put himself very far ahead very quick.
I would wholeheartedly agree with that.
So Kirby's opening hand looks like there's a lot of spells and 2 Fields of Ruin.
Hoo boy, that's not what you want to see.
Yep, there's definitely 2 fields in there, and that's going to be a very quick mulligan for him. Joe looks like he's content enough with his hand if it's already been set down.
And if Joe's feeling good about his hand and he's on the play against Kirby and a mulligan, I have to feel that the advantage bar goes a little bit further in Joe's favor.
Oh boy, we're bringing up the advantage bar? Where's our advantage bar?
Corey's just like angrily singing in a corner, being like, I'm not adding that.
We need an advantage bar.
It would be the most...
The best part about the advantage bar is I guarantee you there's an entire person at the WotC coverage that's entire job is putting the advantage bar in a direction.
Like, I want to see that person just like sitting there trying to figure out who's ahead and like, all right, I'm going to just name off multiple different things, like a mid-range matchup in Modern, a control matchup in any format, or
Storm against anyone in Legacy.
Storm mirror match in Legacy. Who's ahead?
You also just have... There were so many situations where the advantage bar was just never correct, where you have like an aggro deck versus a control deck, and like the control deck's at 4 but has taken complete control of the game, and the advantage bar's still on the aggro side.
No, but you see, the aggro deck has 0 cards in hand, and the control player has 7 cards in hand and 56 lands in play. Like, they're behind because
They have 0 cards in deck then, so they lose. That's why the advantage bar is the other way. But more importantly, there is magic happening, and we saw a Shiv and Fire take down one of the Saprolings, showing a little bit of weakness from Kirby's side, as the 3 tokens is going to go ahead and come across, putting Kirby down to 16.
Yep. Seeing the Shiv and Fire just kind of serving the purpose of buying that little bit of breather room. Not even buying breather room so much as just like taking a little bit off.
Yeah, it's really not that much of a change.
It's really not.
Joe here looking and see if he wants to deploy anything else onto this board. I don't think there's much of a reason to.
No. But it looks like he might disagree.
Alright, another Sapling Migration.
And that's going to get met with a Syncopate on 2.
Syncopate there from Kirby, going to go ahead and take care of that. Meaning there's nothing like a Cannonade, which is good for Joe. And we missed on our land, and importantly, we're on red as our mana source, and there is that Sinister Sabotage up in the hand.
I think that Kirby is starting to show some amount of weakness to Joe there, and that might prompt him to start committing more to the board.
Yep. There is a Legion's Landing, and notably, the red card in Kirby's hand, I almost 100% think it's a Fight with Fire. That did show up in the deck.
Oh boy.
9 mana Plague Wind. It's actually just Plague Wind.
He's living a bit of a dream here, but
Legion's Landing here is going to go ahead and come into play, though, and make another token. And if Joe's able to attack with everyone, it's going to mean that this landing flips, and it looks like that's what's happening. Adonto comes in, and I don't know how Kirby wins from this position.
yeah. I think the fact that Kirby has stalled on land, stalled on things to do, and has failed to really answer what Joe's doing is just going to result in him taking a quick L here.
Yep, Adonto just going to go and make another token. There's no reason to commit anything else to this board.
Nope.
You have a pretty reasonable clock on it. You're going to put Kirby down to 8 with this attack, and then you're going to put him down to 2 as the next one. Really no reason to commit anything.
Yep. Like, at some point, if you're holding the 4-drop, you can try to do that. It's just a lethal thing, but you don't even really have to. You're perfectly fine just kind of sitting here.
I think he might have picked up a cannonade.
Cannonade does buy him some time here.
It buys him a reasonable amount of time, actually. It pretty much completely stops the clock, but Joe hasn't played any real threats.
And
Kirby looks like he's doing the math to see if the Pride of the Vanguards can beat him.
so he's going to do this now to just play around that pump spell. This way, if Joe does have it, Kirby's not dead. Though it does give Joe a bit of a clearing to cast sorcery speed things to rebuild his board.
Mm-hmm. So Joe here picks up, looks like just another land. There isn't a Johnny in the hand. Can't get a great look at everything else. Looks like the Pioneers are in there too. So there is a Johnny. I would hope the Pioneers are going to join him. Nope. We're going to actually minus. I don't mind
Okay,
this.
I actually think this is fine. This way he gets to put more into his board for free
Mm-hmm.
and go more wide as opposed to more focused into... He should have 1/1.
Yeah, there should be a Goblin token.
There sure should be a Goblin token.
Alas.
Alas, there's no Goblin token.
And Kirby's just like, look,
Doesn't matter.
I got all these. I haven't played any lands. Did you think I had spells?
Alright, so Joe's going to go and take that in a not-so-quick 2-1 fashion there.
Yep.
And now we're going to see the last match is the deck we saw first round, Teamer Lamp versus Firemind's Insight. We're just going to go ahead and kind of refresh our memory here with the Teamer Lamp deck.
Yeah, it's been a minute. So we have Chromatic Lantern, Gilded Lotus, Gifted Paradise, and the Circulation Route as the new ramp spells to pull together this kind of weird amalgamation of Palaka Worms, Star of Extinction, and then some fun-ofs in Overflowing Insight, Immortal Sun, Omniscience, Niv-Mizzet, and Nezahal. This is definitely a very interesting deck. I don't think this deck is exactly what I would be bringing to a Comp RL tournament, but if you have nothing to do this Friday and you have these type of cards lying around, you play this deck at F&M, man.
Yeah, now, actual question. What does
Yeah.
Kirby do about a Niv-Mizzet?
You lose.
Okay.
You
Just
have to, I mean, you have Beacon Bolt, you have, like, you can 2-for-1 it, and by 2-for-1 I mean, like, 4-for-1 it, because they pick 2 cards up. It's not good, man.
like Niv-Mizzet seems like the hardest thing.
They tap out for Niv, and you tap out for Ral, and you minus.
Yeah. Sure.
That's your best play.
That's your best play, and that's not saying much. So I think that Kirby might have a hard time here, but if he's able to draw a couple counter spells and Michael doesn't have the Niv-Mizzet specifically, he might be fine here.
It really depends on the order of the threats that Michael has. If Michael's threats are heavy on cards like River's Rebuke and Palaka Worm, he is going to be behind. But if Michael's threats are Niv-Mizzet, Nezahal, and Omniscience side of things, he's going to have a lot more potential power.
Yep.
Star of Extinction is hilariously just a 7-mana Stone Rain game 1.
It sure is. It can kill Rawls. I mean, yeah.
It kills Ral, okay. Ral and the Dream Eater, but like for the most part, we're looking at 7-mana Stone Rain.
7-mana Stone Rain. Certainly not the strongest card you could be playing here. So I'm not actually sure where I want to put the advantage here. It feels like it could go either way.
It seems very draw dependent, which is kind of what happens when you're talking about these ramp decks. A lot of what happens in these ramp matchups is if the ramp player is able to put together their curve into threats properly, it can stumble a control player and make it to where they have to play off curve or weird in these ways that will put them in an advantage. But if the control player draws the side of their deck that interacts favorably with what Michael's trying to do, then it gets a lot harder.
Yeah. So we'll go and see how it goes. Hopefully it'll be a kind of an interesting final match of the night. Both decks certainly are interesting at the very least.
Michael rolls an 8 there. Let's see if Kirby gets to the play. Nope, no luck there.
And look there. So Michael is going to be have the little bit of an advantage that he is able to get out a little bit ahead of Kirby here. And he doesn't have to worry about a Syncopate eating his 3-drop spell if Kirby wants to play a Fire Mind's Research on turn 2.
Welcome to the Get There stream there, Djinn Experience.
The Djinn Experience.
Yeah.
What is the Djinn Experience?
What is the Djinn Experience?
It's make a wish and then have horrible after
You guys
effects,
are
I
good to play.
assume.
Is it good to get the start? Oh, Kirby here showing us the camera, the hand of the camera, and it looked like there were land Magic the Gathering cards in it.
There sure do appear to be those.
Guildgate into Steam Vents there. Looks like Michael and Kirby there playing the same deck.
Yep, basically the same deck here. Now,
5-color Lich's Mastery. I want to see that list.
that deck, I've heard people talk about Lich's Mastery in this new format.
But you don't have Approach. You don't have like the free draw 7.
You just win the game with your Lich's Mastery, I guess.
But you have to like discard cards when you lose life.
You just don't even worry about that.
Looks like Michael here going into Gift of Paradise into the circulation route. But Syncopate going to go ahead and take care of that.
Now that Syncopate is kind of playing the role you would expect in the ramp matchup of just trying to eat the ramp spells. Unfortunately, the first ramp spell did get under Kirby's counter magic.
Michael also importantly, and this is something that probably isn't likely to come up all that much, but the Gift of Paradise did go on the Forest where it needs to play around a card like Field of Ruin. Island the play there for Michael, and wonder if there's anything powerful to do on 6. There's
Looks like a Gilded Lotus. Now if Kirby has another Syncopate, we're definitely going to see that being used here.
Ioni is going to go ahead and take care of it. I don't mind that.
Not the worst. Always worth consideration if you are low on hard counters, whether or not you want to use on something like Gilded Lotus at this point in the game, since Michael is getting close to being able to hard cast the threats in his deck.
Kirby does also have a second copy of Ionize in the hand. It looks like there's also an Essence Scatter.
And that's
Michael there picked up the Immortal Sun, but he's going to lead on a Palaka Worm, which unfortunately for him, this one gets Essence Scattered.
Yep.
And this importantly means that Kirby has answers to both of the threats that Michael has in hand. So do you think that we're willing to draw cards with Insight there?
I think once Kirby hits the point of running out of gas, he may be forced into doing that.
Okay.
Right now, he can certainly wait one more turn as he does have the Ionize in hand. But if we go any further than that, he may have to start digging for something to do or another counter magic.
There's another Palaka Worm. Kirby here with the mission briefing to go ahead and Essence Scatter it. Or I guess if we're mission briefing, we should probably Ionize it because it's more mana efficient.
And Kirby looking at 2 decent cards on top of his library here.
I didn't think about how mission briefing kind of interacts with the Fire Mines.
Oh yeah,
enchantment.
no, I briefly mentioned that, but I did not stick on it very long or put too much emphasis on it. But the double spell for it does add up a little bit.
Yep, and we're already at 5, so we're getting closer towards the area where Fire Mines research will be able to potentially kill. Michael here untapping his 7 mana. Looks like we picked up just a land this turn. So Star of Extinction and the Immortal Sun in hand. Can I play this card?
Just gonna go and see the Immortal Sun hitting the board, and it looks like Kirby's thinking about what he wants to do.
Kirby is okay with the Immortal Sun. I'm okay with that, actually. The Immortal Sun is only an important card if it draws into more threats, and if you're able to answer more threats, or if you just have a Dream Eater, which picks up the Immortal Sun. What are you looking for?
Don't worry about it.
Okay.
I accidentally hit a button that is apparently mapped to back.
Alright. So Dream Eater here, yeah, just picks up the Immortal Sun. Michael's pretty much forced into just replaying it. And now this Ionize is going to take care of on its second way down, I would assume.
Yep.
Putting a 6 counter on the Insight. And I wouldn't be surprised to see Kirby just shoot Michael here and start really applying some pressure.
It looks like he's going to hold on to the counters here, but it certainly appears that Kirby is going for the plan of just burning Michael out.
I mean, if one more Dream Eater hit happens, he just wins the game here.
Yeah, and in the long run, if Michael is unable to hit something like a Palaka Worm, that the 10 damage that will soon come from the Fire Mines research is going to be enough to just kill the opponent.
We're going to see a Star of Extinction play a board clear that is also a Stone Rain, and Michael's going to concede to the Sinister Sabotage.
Yep.
And Kirby here showing a pretty good counter burn situation there. Fire Mines Insight making it very easy to play that counter burn role.
All right, and now let's see if we can continue that steam going to the sideboard here. I had that up.
Yep. Looking at his sideboard here, there's a lot of really weird cards in it. Sentinel Totem didn't get any real play tonight. There's nothing to do with that.
Nope.
We don't want any extra removal. What I anticipate to see are these Disdainful Strokes. Everything Michael's doing that matters costs at least 4.
Yep, that seems like the first easy inclusion here.
Otherwise, I would also expect to see Negate.
Negate also seems like an entirely reasonable card. So, and as far as cards that are bad, your Shivan Fire seems certainly bad. Your Fiery Cannonade seems not at its strongest. and then one of your other removal
Lava
spells.
Coil and Beacon Bolt are also kind of bad, so I
Yeah.
might even put in like the Fight with Fire over it, because Fight with Fire can just win the game for you.
Yes, that is entirely reasonable. So I think that those are the cards we will be looking at taking in and out. And then from Michael's side, we are going to go ahead and see another Niv Mizzet.
Mhm.
The Carnage Tyrants seem good.
As do the, I kind of like the draw card creature.
The draw card creature also seems entirely reasonable.
Your
here.
opponent's more than likely taking out all their non-lightning strike burn, which means a card like this could run away with the game in a way.
Yes, just an effectively slightly more potent Azure Mage from way back, but this one just 2 mana, 2/1, draw 2 cards, 5 mana. Like you said, if there's not removal, it takes several games.
Yep, so Niv is at both of those are Carnage Tyrants. I'd like the negates too, but I don't know how many slots we have. I anticipate to take out all the Star of Extinctions.
Also, this card might be worth considering.
There's an argument for this, the expansion expulsion.
Well, the fact that it can also be used as as a pseudo negate of your own.
Yep, I do like this card. So if I were actually sideboarding for this matchup, thinking about it more, looking at our slots, looking at the cards we have, 3 Star for Extinctions, the 2 Rivers Rebuke, and I'm not really sure what the last card is. Probably one of the cute cards, even though this is kind of where they quote-unquote shine.
Yeah, I feel like I'm not actually sure what the cutest card is in this deck.
Overflowing Insight.
Is probably the cutest card, yes.
So I would like to take those 6 cards out. And so that's Nivazet, 2 Carnage Tyrants, an Expulsion Expansion, and 2 Negates is actually what I'm thinking.
I think that's entirely reasonable here. So I think with that,
Yep.
we good?
Good to move back down to the game. You guys are good to start. No, but I definitely I like this matchup from Kirby's side, actually thinking about it. He has a reasonable amount of control. If he's able to land an enchantment early, it means that everything that he does to disrupt Michael is also progressing a solid game plan for him. After watching how that game went, it definitely seems like Kirby actually has a little bit of an upper hand.
I think that he has an upper hand if he draws the enchantment. I'm not sure if he has it without it.
It looks like Michael's hand has Expansion, Expulsion, and Banefire in it, with a couple lands and I believe a Chromatic Lantern hanging out.
Sure. That's fine.
Very interesting hand. I really like the Expulsion half of Expansion, Expulsion, actually.
Yeah. No, that card's real neat, and it's even seeing a fair amount of control play from what I've seen.
Looks like Hinterland Harbor, the start from Michael. Kirby here throwing a Steam Vents off the top of his deck. There is a Shivan Falls, or a Sulphur Falls, and there is the very powerful enchantment. But Michael here, only 2 lands, so he's missing on his own land drops, so he might have a problem getting to the cards that he wants to be playing. Looks like he has 3 3-mana ramp spells, and then
2 lands.
and 2 cards to get to with those ramp
And
spells.
unfortunately, with the way Michael's starting off, even if he hits that 3rd land, he is signaling super hard to Kirby that countering any ramp spells is the correct thing to do.
Yep. Kirby just going to go in and Field of Ruin the Hinterland Harbor, amusingly.
Yep, and this forces Michael to get a basic forest into play. Luckily, he has 9 of them to find.
Yeah, he's pretty high up in basic forest. Not going to do a lot of mana messing around with. Is Michael considering getting a land that is needed for an expansion expulsion?
Whew. I mean, you said he has Chromatic Lantern in hand,
Yeah.
but that Chromatic Lantern most likely going to be a counterspell. Though, if Michael draws into a land, there's a high chance that it's a green land, I suppose.
Yeah, it's pretty high. Other than the 2 Izzet Guild Gates, the 2 Archer Baraskas, the 1 Field of Ruin, the 3 Steam
He
Vents.
He has 15 green sources left in his deck.
Yep. It looks like we picked up a Rootbound Crag, so we found a green.
And it looks like we're going to lead on the first ramp spell here. And
In response to a Gift of Paradise, the Archaeologist is going to go ahead and bite the dust to a Lightning Strike.
sure. I'm sure Michael's fine with the trade-off of having his ramp spell resolve for trading off his 2/1.
Kirby is drawing a lot of lands, but there is the very powerful Rouse the Wreck.
Now, he does have his card advantage on Engine on Live, but online. But Michael can play 2 ramp spells here and start setting up for playing his haymakers that might be kind of gunked up in his hand right now.
He didn't hit another untapped land, so he can only play the 1.
Oh, he can only play the 1. That is correct. And unfortunate for him here.
Kirby is drawing a lot of lands, though, but I believe other than the 2 lands, he has 2 ionizes.
He's drawing a lot of lands, but he has a card filter machine and card advantage and filtering machine in play.
Crackling Drake in the top 2 looks like the Lightning Strike going to go to the graveyard. I assume the Drake's, going to wait a minute because it's more efficient for him to hold up Ionize.
Yes. At this point, he cares about holding his counterspells, but once he is able to safely play his Drake, he is going to be able to start putting down some amount of pressure.
Chromatic Lantern going to go ahead and come into play. Kirby's thinking about potentially ionizing this. Michael did pick up a land, but it is one of the 2 Is It Guild Gates.
Which is unfortunate for him here, but...
I understand playing Guild Gates for the root card, but I just don't think it's necessary.
Alright, and Michael here throwing out another Chromatic Lantern. And Michael here does have to be quite concerned about that Ral's loyalty right now.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we already knew this about cards like Teferi, but these cards do not actually take that long to ultimate. They come into play, and it only takes 4 turns.
Yeah, and that goes by pretty quickly when they're getting all this card advantage to keep that card safe.
Yep, so Ral going to go ahead and go up to 8 here, and that means that next turn, and then another Ionize picked up, I would anticipate Kirby to just play a land and pass.
Yeah, Kirby is in no rush to do anything here.
There's no reason to be.
Nope.
If Ral ultimates, it's a 5-mana Planeswalker in a new era. You win.
Yes, there is no coming back from that. And the fact that it also draws cards off of the trigger is just...
Michael, very importantly here, did pick an untapped land up, though, so he has access to Banefire for 8.
He can Banefire for 8, or does... there's no other place.
I mean, Banefire kills Ral 100%. You know what doesn't kill Ral 100%?
Niv Mizzet?
Niv Mizzet does not 100% kill Ral Zarek.
Certainly does not, and now he's stuck into a line of casting a Banefire to go ahead and kill.
I really don't understand what we're doing.
So he's valuing the Niv Mizzet in play. Unfortunately for him, though, it just gets killed by the Ral Zarek most likely. And
yeah, this is a really weird line.
I think that Michael's feeling pressure to put something lasting on the board, but the Banefire killing the card advantage engine from the opponent's side is more than good enough at this point.
Yeah, there's so many things here. So here we have mission briefing. I'm not sure. I think it's getting cast in response to Niv Mizzet.
I have to assume that's the case.
I just don't understand exactly the sequencing. Because, so if we Banefire the Ral, Kirby can't interact. He already knows how getting Banefired with X equals 5 plus works.
Yes.
So Ral Zarek will die. And then you play the Niv Mizzet next turn. Niv Mizzet's uncounterable all the time. It doesn't matter if Ral Zarek is in play or not.
Yeah, it certainly is a line that I'm not super confident in being correct, but...
Mission briefing looks like we're just going to put a land in the graveyard. Not sure if we're going to flash anything back here. Nothing special, looks like.
Yep, and now Michael's forced into using that Banefire for a small amount here.
Yeah, just to get a ping. Ooh, woo, that was fun.
That was, no, not fun what that was. So now instead of having that Banefire as a guaranteed way of killing that Ral, all it's going to do is deal 3 damage to him, draw him a card, and then just still kill the...
Oh, I understand. Oh, no. I need... Banefire says any target now, right?
Deals X damage.
Because that's a Modern Masters print. That's in the Goldfish thing.
Yeah, it's anything that says creature or player is any target.
Errata to any target. I needed to make sure of that just to guarantee it, but yeah. So, Lightning Strike going to go towards Niv. Michael's going to go to Cantrip. Is that what the misplay was? Because that's an old bordered Banefire. Maybe he didn't realize he could go at Ral.
That would be heavily unfortunate if that's the case.
Because he didn't redirect the damage from the Banefire. All the damage that's been done to Ral is from Niv Mizzet pings.
That's heavily unfortunate.
Yeah. I suppose that happens when you have weird rules changes.
Yeah.
Rao gonna plus. Looks like we're looking at 2 different spells here, so there's a real consideration.
I think one of them might be a Fire Mines research.
Negate. And yep, it looks like a second research. Kirby gonna go ahead and shock. Here comes a second research and multiple ionizes up. Yeah, this is not a game. Again, we're back in this. Michael had a line to potentially win this game or potentially get himself into a position that he might win this game. Nezahal's and Carnage Tyrant. Okay.
Okay, no, this is...
He has real cards.
He has real cards, and he is going to need... It takes 6 hits off of the Fire Mines researchers to kill Michael.
Yeah.
He has enough life total to play around with here.
Kirby cannot interact with a resolved Carnage Tyrant.
He
Like, his deck just actually has 0 ways to interact with it.
He can block it, and right now I think his plan might be to race it, and that's not where you want to be. But he might be able to.
Yes, the red spell in Michael's graveyard is the Banefire. He used the small Banefire that went towards Kirby, and I believe it's an older copy, and he just didn't realize that it could have killed Ral.
Yes. So...
His hand looks like it's 2 Palaka Worms, an Expansion Expulsion, and a Nezahal.
Okay, it's very interesting there. He is holding up the expansion part of Expansion Expulsion, and that could theoretically be quite strong if Kirby goes for... I don't really know what he could go for that would be amazing, but it is something that's there.
Dream Eater looks like it put a couple lands in the graveyard. And one of the chromatic lands is going to get bounced, no reason not to.
Sure.
Michael, importantly here, has been tapping all his non-land permanent mana producers first. And I just really find that sequencing to be very important.
Yeah.
Crackling Drake going to come down here. Not sure exactly the power toughness on that card, but Kirby's potentially threatening a real clock with his Dream Eater and Drake. As we saw in one of his earlier games, he can put a ton of damage on his opponent out of nowhere.
Now, one thing I can kind of tell here from A, his play pattern, and B, knowing Kirby personally, it's very obvious that a switch has been turned where he's changing his game plan and he realizes that. And no longer is he concerned about trying to just like stop everything Michael's doing. He now realizes that the only way to stop what Michael's game plan is right now is by killing him.
The only way to stop him is to stop him.
Yeah.
So we see the plus on Ral Zarek going to go ahead and put another Crackling Drake in the hand for Kirby, and a Sinister Sabotage of the graveyard. This Drake also being at a 7/4 means that it trades with Carnage Tyrant.
He can just straight trade with Carnage Tyrant if he wants to. So Kirby has multiple ways to play this out.
Yep. Dream Eater going to come across, put Michael down to 22. Michael picks up Forest here. And I believe Kirby's going to leave at least 1 Ionize up for the majority of this game. I would doubt. I would be surprised to see him get rid of that possibility.
Now, Michael can play the Palaka Worm and redirect that Ionize if he wants to.
Yep. Ionize will redirect to the Expansion Expulsion, which will get countered upon its resolution. So Michael will also not take any damage. Do you like attacking with Carnage Tyrant into this Crackling Drake?
I mean, I think you have to.
He has a Nezahal. Yeah, I think you're kind of just forced into something like that. And some chat agreeing with us that we're kind of just forced into this attack with Carnage Tyrant. And if we are, is it face or Ral?
Carnage Tyrant has trample, correct?
It is a 7/6 trample hexproof.
That's actually a really solid question. I think it has to be a Ral here.
Okay.
Like, you want to kill Kirby, but I don't think you have the luxury of letting this Ral stay at 7.
So if you attack Kirby, I think there's less of a percentage that Kirby blocks. If Kirby doesn't block, you get a follow with Nezahal, and then now he just has to go full pump breaks.
He does have to go full pump breaks here. That is correct.
That's just my opinion on it. The Palaka Worm Expansion Expulsion might also just be better than Nezahal at this point, because it's also hard for Kirby to answer, and it gains you some life, which is a relevant statement in this matchup. So we see the Carnage Tyrant looking like it's coming in. Michael making this decision. Coming towards the face. So Kirby's going to go ahead and go straight for the block, so he'll fall down to 9 for this exchange. Rousrex stays around, and we'll see which threat Michael wants to go ahead and follow up on. What do we think about Nathaniel?
So theoretically, if Kirby had like a lightning strike in hand, he could theoretically win the game by just holding up that Ionize, hoping to counter the next spell Michael plays, then lightning striking him and killing him with the 9 power on the Drake, the 2 damage from the Ionize, and the 3 damage from the lightning strike.
Well, I understand that. I think that playing a little bit of this longer game is holding him a little bit safer.
No, I was more just like figuring out if that was a line.
I understand that.
I think it was correct what he did.
So we're going to see the expansion expulsion work on the Ionize. Oh, right. It makes a copy of it, so he gets to counter Ionize and actually deal the damage to Kirby.
Okay, that's...
It's not a redirect, it's a copy.
No, it's a copy, which is actually much better here.
Yep. Palaka also coming into play, has a enter the battlefield trigger. That we didn't do. Nope, that one's an ETB. It's not lifelink, it's not resolution of an effect.
Well, yeah.
It is something that if caught, we just say, though, right?
Importantly, it is not a May.
Yeah. Michael should be at 29 here. But Crackling Doom going to go ahead and take care of, or come into play, draw a new card. Rousrex just going to minus take care of the Palaka Worm. Should we alert them?
I think we should. I think it feels bad to have the game in a way that is because of a missed trigger.
Michael, Palaka Worm gains 7 when it comes into play, right? Yeah, looks like they were just having that discussion. So yeah, Michael at 25 properly. Yeah, because if this was caught, if like say the players caught it right now and they would call a judge would say that, or what would happen in Comp Royale?
Okay,
I don't ever remember
once it gets to a certain point, which we are at that certain point, what would happen in Comp Royale is the judge would be like, all right, so this is a must trigger, which means now your opponent has the ability to choose if it will be put on the stack.
Yeah, they made the decision. There are 3 Firemind research in play.
That's just so much research.
He is doing a lot of research. It's a good thing we are close to a very good, couple of very good campuses for him to do that research at.
That is a very good thing.
Nether Hall, Palaka Worm, and a couple lands looks like the leftovers for Michael here. And this game is definitely slipping away from him. 5 damage from the Fireman's Inside in play, so that's going to put Michael down to 20. And then we have a total of 12 in the air from the Drake and the Dream Eater. So there's a reasonable amount of damage that could come towards Michael this coming turn. Kirby here thinking about how he wants to respond to Nezahal. Looks like it's going to be a lightning strike at the dome. Players talking about ordering after the card, but yeah, lightning strike going to go up to the face. Michael falls down to 22.
And his Fireman's researchers all incrementally go up, as well as his Drake.
Yep, so now there's 14 points of power in play, plus the 5 damage. Is Kirby's on, like, ops and stuff, right? Yeah, there's one in the graveyard. I was about to say, like, I don't think I've seen him cast there's one. There's an opt. These are the best kind of cards for Kirby to draw in this position.
Cheap spells that pump up his Drake, his Fireman's researchers.
Michael should also be drawing a card.
That we're not going to say anything about. That's
Nope.
just the life gain I want to say something about because it feels really bad if it's like Michael dies exactly.
Kirby's hand is 3 Ionizes.
Hoobly.
So I would assume to see Rousrex plus before we attack.
I would have to assume that's correct. At this point, Kirby's just really close to stringing together lethal.
Curious to see what they're thinking about. One thing I've noticed about the standard format is these games are not quick.
No,
Even the aggro decks.
I am always happy to see a format like that, honestly.
I'm yes and no.
That is reasonable. It looks like Kirby bent a spell and picked up a land.
Yep, I think he's just trying to grow his Drake. Because now he has a total of 15 in play, so he's 2 off.
He can draw a card off of his lowest Fireman's Research here if he wants to.
He just has a bunch of Ionizes. If he's 2 off...
A spell needs to go on the stack.
Okay.
But yes, putting the opponent down.
I think they're
to the-
talking about how Michael should have drawn a card with the opt.
Eh.
4 mana getting tapped here looks like a Chemister's Insight going on the stack.
But yeah, you're probably right. Just putting him down to 2 life is fine.
Not sure exactly what's being cast here.
For the life of me, I could not tell you.
Are we drawing 2 cards? Are we insighting? I don't think we need to do that. It doesn't get us anywhere, really.
I like using one of your researchers to draw a card.
I agree with that. You can do the one that's only on 2. Draw a card there. If you hit like an opt chain, you just win.
If you hit a lightning strike, you just win.
There's a lot of ways you just win.
You're just so close to winning.
All you got to do is win. No matter what.
Kirby's not sure, though. I get what you're doing.
Winning. He's got ionizes.
Are we having
There we go.
Josh
Draw a
play
card.
again?
Are we having Josh play again? There's an island.
He's already played a land, though.
Fact. Do you want to draw another card off your other insight?
I mean,
Because Lightning Strike's still lethal.
are you trying to go for ending the game? I mean, yeah, it's free.
It's pretty, yeah, it's like... The nice thing about multiple researches is it means that you get to have one that's the damage one, and the other ones get to be the...
Looks like instead he is going to draw 2.
But now he doesn't have the lethal because he's played a land. Nezal's going to draw a card out of Michael. Picks up just another land. And also that subtracts a counter from the Cackling Drake, I believe, because Drake only checks graveyard, or is it like the other cards where it also is
I
checking?
feel like
exile?
it's the other. It's definitely the other.
Yeah, I mean everything else is doing it, so I would hope that their like double guild card does. Checks both.
Yep, exile
Okay.
and graveyard.
Did we pass? Oh, Kirby's at 7.
That is important.
Yeah, there's a lot of discussion here, actually. Okay. Yeah, I guess you can't just slam jam. You are in danger. Worm.
Worm
Well-
probably going to get met by an Ionize here.
Yep. Ionize. Trigger Nezahal. What's he get? Land Magic the Gathering card.
Unfortunate for Michael.
So Michael
here.
now down to 20 and he's dead.
He's going to swing in for 7. Kirby is going to be forced to block
Oh,
with
he
this
is forced to
4/4.
block, which means he's not dead. No, he's dead because there's 2 insights. Or
Yes.
2 5 counter cards.
This is entirely correct.
Chromatic Lantern. Rootbound Crag.
Michael is forced to attack here, though.
Yeah, he's got to slam. Because
I mean, he's just dead regardless.
yeah. Maybe he blocks with his Drake.
Maybe Kirby blocks with his Drake. Yes, this is a correct statement you have used with your mouth.
Yeah, Michael going through the motions and going to go and concede. All right, so we see Kirby take 2-0 over the Teamer Ramp deck. Him getting to win his first match, though, against Boros Aggro, that was actually kind of interesting to watch.
Yeah, I think that there were a couple matches that were a little bit more interesting to watch. I think that the Tokens versus Fireman's Insight deck was a very interesting match.
Mhm.
The Golgari aggro matches I thought were interesting, though it felt like it just kind of involved the aggro deck petering out a lot.
Yeah, we got guided into watching him just, like, play cards that didn't matter a lot of the time.
Yeah, and Golgari just seeming like a very strong
Yes.
archetype in general.
The Golgari cards are very strong, and it's going to be very hard for them not to be pillars of this format.
Yes. So with that, kind of had an interesting little
Mhm.
gamut of decks tonight. Going to be putting this on repeat afterwards, and going to be bringing more Magic the Gathering content in this format next week. I'm not sure if we're going to be doing New Standard again, or if we're going to be trying maybe some more tournament formats with these cards. As
I feel like we'll be moving around to something else. I'm not exactly sure what at the moment, but I feel like we'll be on something
I'm
else.
kind of thinking that we might see Modern, considering we have that new Zoo deck. We have Jund has access to the Assassin's Trophy, and then I'm sure there's at least one other Modern archetype.
You know what 5-0'd?
What's that?
4 Creeping Chill Dredge.
And 4 creeping. Okay, that's 3 decks that have new cards in it that we could possibly be seeing in Modern.
But yeah, you
format.
hand me a Zoo deck, I will happily play it next week.
Yeah, but what do you do if you have Zoo and Dredge?
I will play Zoo.
Okay then.
If Zoo is a playable deck, I will play Zoo.
Okay,
I love Kurt Ape.
that is fair. Just thought I would ask about your priorities there. So, probably gonna be doing Modern next week and be bringing you some of the decks that show off the newest cards in the format.
Mm-hmm.
So, That will be next week at 7:30. And as we said earlier, if you just came in late and you want to watch what happened tonight, feel free to watch, as we are going to be putting this on repeat as soon as this is over.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for coming out to join us, and we'll be saying goodnight here from the basement.
Yep, and thanks for everyone that got there.